into the Hippy Dippy Roundtable. I've already stopped counting which edition of the Hippy Dippy Roundtable this is, but I am happy to have you here. We have some old favorites returning, like Supreme. We have some new faces who haven't been here in a while, like Hans. And we've got, of course, some veterans of the roundtable, like Demon Mama, and the third time's the charm, hopefully, for Xander Hall until he crashes and his computer catches on fire.
No, I'm good. I got Discord now. Discord is based
Wonderful.
whereby is cringe.
Yep. Now, or you're just technologically a little,
little boomer,
a little bit of a little boomer. But we also
I'm
have
too
many
busy
people
chasing milfs.
Many people here who be on we have too many people here. We have a lot of people here who's going to be on the Rumble next Friday, which is going to be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That Rumble will decide the next Hippy Dippy champion, as Vosh broke the rules, the little hooligan, little bastard that he is. I mean, Jimmy Dore's right about Vosh. We all know it. Anyway, we have Demon Mama who's going to be on there. Xander Hall is going to be on there. Nacho is going to be on there. Sprouticus is going to be on there. I believe that's all of them who are going to be on there, unless, of course, you impress me tonight. Now, we're going to go into introductions as we go around the room. We're going to start in the top right, left-hand corner with American Nacho. Introduce yourself.
I'm American Nacho. I play video games, turn political streamer. I'm right-leaning, center-right. I identify more with like a traditional Republican, maybe someone like a Tom Dewey or like an Eisenhower. And I'm fighting an uphill battle right now, all right? We're trying to change minds in the Republican Party. I do a lot of stuff here locally, and that's my main focus for now.
Happy to see
and
people.
That's it. Yeah.
Happy to see
you
people
can find
involved
me on
in local
Twitch.
politics. Oh,
yeah.
You can find him on Twitch, American Nacho, and he has a lovely merch shirt. I saw it the other day. Gonna throw it over to Connor.
Yeah, hi guys. Thanks for having me. My name is Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. I'm a military veteran, law enforcement veteran, a science fiction nerd, and a politics nerd. I like yelling at people on the internet, which is why I'm here. I identify politically as centrist or center right, so you'll probably see me throwing elbows both ways. And that's pretty much it. Super stoked to be here.
Wonderful. Now we're going to throw it over to Demon Mama.
Hello. Thank you so much, Dylan, for having me on again. By the way, I absolutely love your new glasses. I haven't seen you wearing them. They might not be completely new, but they're amazing. My name is Demon Mama. I am a YouTube political edutainer, and I am the queen of the imps, my lovely fans. You've probably heard of me. You've probably seen me on a panel before, but if you haven't, come check out all my stuff at demonmama.com. And I have all my links there, so you can find me, demonmama.com. Thank you so much for having me on again. I'm really looking forward to getting into the pit fight here.
Lovely. And for everybody at home, once again, this is also known as a promotional show for next week, which is going to be a huge show. Again, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to crown the new Hippy Dippy champion. We have a lot of people booked for that show. We have Xander Hall booked. We have Hunter Avalon booked. We have Destiny booked. We have Demon Mama booked. It's going to be a action-packed show. Now I'm going to throw it over to Hans to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Hans Parkir. I am Twitch Politics' newest and most bestest and burliest political himbo. When I'm not posting thirst traps and memes on Twitter, I'm playing Pokemon or reading the news or hosting the second greatest panel in Twitch Politics on Saturdays. So check that out and check me out.
I'm not winning that belt.
I'm big and I'm beautiful and I want everyone to be big and beautiful as well. So.
Now, I know you have your panel on Saturdays, but I hope you brought your best equipment today because you were breaking out a lot in that intro.
A lot of. Oh, no, what happened? I'll fix myself. Good.
Must be the CIA. Same group that's funding Vosh these days. We're going to throw it over to Sprouticus.
Hey guys, I'm the Sprouticus. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter underneath the same name. It is the Sprouticus. I'm a constitutionalist conservative. Been streaming since early this year, so I'm excited to get into this. I'm excited to talk some issues out in here, and maybe we'll come to a conclusion, or maybe we'll just yell at each other. Stay tuned to find out.
Wonderful. He is going to be one of the many people on the show next Friday. Now we're going to throw it over to Supreme.
I'm Supreme. If you know, you know.
Wonderful. How's Chicken?
She's meowing right next to me.
Wonderful. Gonna throw it over to. Aw, I miss her too. We're gonna throw it over to the Turk.
Hey guys, I'm Turk. I am a science and tech streamer, YouTuber, and dabble in politics every once in a while. Just to let Dylan know, my going hourly rate for this is $15 an hour, so make sure you make it billable to the Turk.
Well, I use the Pinkertons, and there'll be no unionization in my show. I'm a liberal elitist, and so of course that means I am hypocritical. Now we're going to throw it over to Xander Hall.
Hello, my name is Xander Hall. I'm a political streamer and YouTuber. I guess you would probably put me somewhere around SocDem, probably call me a leftist if we're talking about more contemporary real-life politics rather than the internet. I'm also technologically illiterate and have trouble with whereby, so I want to thank Dylan for hosting this one on Discord so I can attend, because I've been wanting to do this for a while. And yeah, I'm excited to do this. I've been wanting to do more panel shows for a while, so I'm hyped.
Wonderful. Do you think you have chances of winning next Friday on the Hippy Dippy Championship? I mean, you could be the belt holder. Only one person's ever held that belt, and that was Vosh.
I'm gonna bring home that trophy. I'm gonna kick their lily white asses. We're gonna win. We're gonna go in there. The Doom music is gonna start playing. I'm not gonna be trapped in there with them. They're gonna be trapped in there with me.
In your dreams, right?
In truth, what's actually going to happen is that
in
the
truth, I'm going to get my lily white ass kicked, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Did you assume that it'll be
Okay. Look, all of you will be able to shoot promos over this week, which we will use to promote. So actually, all of you should start thinking about that, because we will be using shoot promos to promote the event. Now, we're going to go through some rules. Number 1, no slurs. If you think it's a slur, just don't say it, okay? Please. We are a TOS-friendly stream and would like to keep our jobs. Nothing against terms of service. If I'm talking at any point, that means you stop talking. That means you immediately stop talking. I don't care if it's a diatribe. Now, the thing that's great about Discord, not only can you hear me, but you can also see my thing light up. So you have basically no excuse for not stopping unless you're not actually looking at the Discord, which, if that's the case, it's kind of your fault. I'm only going to do that to moderate. I'm not going to go there and throw in my opinion on immigration randomly. I'm not going to go in there and give you my opinion on the Insurrection Commission. I'm just doing it to moderate. Besides that, also, everybody was going to have a 1 minute and a 1 minute intro and outro segment for each topic, so you can have uninterrupted time. This is so those that have more difficulty getting their way into the conversation at least have a certain amount of time allotted to them to speak. Also, let's say that you are not very good at roundtables. Now, this is not the centerpiece of the roundtable, but if you have difficulty with this, which all of you have experience on roundtables to some extent, so it shouldn't be that much, you could raise your hand, and I will write your name down on the holy notebook. And eventually we will get over to you. Please do not rely on this too heavily, though. This should be seen as a last resort for you, where you just feel like you can't get your way in there. And I will eventually bring it over to you. Please be patient. Is there any questions about the rules or anything that I have yet to clarify?
Dylan, is my mic working better now?
Your mic is working better now. Wonderful.
Excellent.
Great. Let's see
Crisp.
it. Now, we're going on to the first topic. Now, there is one last thing I need to say, that we actually had a huge news update today, which is huge for the online internet space, maybe not so much in the IRL internet space.
I recommended
Nick
this
Fuentes
to Dylan.
was banned off of Twitter. And so people are kind of going back and forth right now about the conversation of Twitter censorship. Would any of you be opposed to replacing one of the topics with that, considering it is breaking news? If not, we can just stick to the ones we have already allotted.
I'm down for switching.
Can it be the last one?
Yeah.
My apologies. I didn't hear the topic. Would you mind restating
Nick Fuentes was banned off Twitter censorship, et cetera, et cetera.
You could probably merge it
I'm
in.
perfectly fine with discussing that, but these topics are great. I'm fine with whatever.
Kirk, you said something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you could probably merge it in with the insurrection one since he was there.
Or just replace it, because we've had insurrection debates for the past month. So just replace that one with this. I think it'd be more interesting, at least.
Fair enough. Does anybody have any opposition to that?
I don't want to replace the insurrection talk. That one's real interesting. Very inconvenient for
which one do we want to?
We've had this conversation for a month, Demon Mama. Okay. It's not like
Can we replace immigration?
Okay,
I think we
can wait. Let's probably replace immigration, because there's nothing in the news particularly around the issue of immigration. Does anybody have any opposition to that?
Besides the fact that Nancy Pelosi still hasn't been to the border, you know.
Yeah, I did a lot of research on this.
As a border state resident, I demand that we talk about immigration.
Okay, well, so I'm gonna have to, I guess, make an executive decision here since there's no agreement. And I guess my decision is that what we're going to do is we're going to move the Insurrection Commission to the bonus topic, and if we get to it, we get to it. Does anybody have a problem with that?
Fair enough.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So let's start with the first one then. Nick Fuentes was banned off of Twitter. He was banned. He's gone. He's been donezoed. Now I will leave my personal opinions of the man at the door and ask you, is there a problem with him getting banned off Twitter specifically, but as a more broader topic, censorship on the platform? Are conservatives being censored? Or lefties being censored? Or is this just a more broader example of censorship on the platform known as Twitter? I know many of you did not come here prepared for this, so I won't be too angry if you don't have something prepared and you want to be silent for this topic. So I want to give people time to think. So is there anybody who already knows their position? I'll just throw it to you first. Okay. Turk was first, or throw it to him?
Yeah, so as we've learned here in the leftist realm that Twitter is a private company and they have the ability to ban whoever they want if they violate their terms of service. So yes, I'm completely okay with them banning somebody that they deem has violated terms of service. You know, it's up to the debate if he did or did not. Given his track record, he probably deserved it. But going into the broader question, like Dylan said, there is being censorship on all the different fronts. It's not just a Republican thing, us crying wolf or anything. It's happening on the left as well. It's happening on a lot of different social media platforms. And as a tech person, I find it kind of sad because this is where we're supposed to be able to openly share ideas and concepts and have debate. And if companies are going to be silencing people they don't agree with, that's a bad thing. And we do want to celebrate freedom of speech.
Wonderful. And Connor, be sure to mute when you like close and open doors and stuff. We're going to throw it over next to Xander Hall.
Yeah, so this is actually something that's pretty close to me right now because I recently got a false strike on my channel. So I understand that there are times where it can feel scary to have TOS like this, where YouTube, Twitter, whatever social media network can just decide to ban you, and then there's not really much you can do. That could be your career on the line. I'm very in favor of Nick Fuentes' banning. I'm in favor of TOS and just generally being able to ban people who act in certain ways on these platforms, but only whenever that TOS is applied accurately and fairly. If you're breaking the TOS that's set forth that you agreed to, you should be banned. If you're banned for a reason other than that, and there is no more elaboration, I think that's worth getting up in arms about. I do not think this is the case with Nick Fuentes, but I do think these platforms deserve to have this right as long as it is applied equally and correctly and accurately.
Okay, now I'm going to throw it over to Sprouticus.
Okay, so I think that I think that the companies that are going to call themselves the new public square should then since they're the new public square follow what the freedom of speech says, and the freedom of speech is there for tweets or for comments that are offensive. If your speech does not offend anyone, then you don't need the protections of the First Amendment because no one's going to be upset that you said something. But it's when your tweets or something, you say something that offends somebody or that disagrees with somebody in power, that is when you need the protection of the First Amendment. And in order to keep the First Amendment, we need to keep the most hideous of speech. I do not agree with Nick Fuentes. A lot of what Nick Fuentes does, I find absolutely disgusting. But that is my personal opinion. He is still allowed to say what he wants to say, no matter how much I might find it disgusting. And that's the beauty of the First Amendment, because everyone is allowed to have a discussion, right? So everyone's allowed to talk. And with everyone being allowed to talk, this then opens up the marketplace of ideas. Because at some point there might be something that is seen as bad, such as not having slavery, which later on can be seen as good. I'm not saying Nick Fuentes is that person, but there can be that flip in what society sees as good and what society sees as bad, and it can just take a flip. And so with that being said, I think that we should continue to push for the First Amendment to be applied when you're talking about the public square, and continue to push for people to be able to say what they're going to say either way. And if you don't like it, block the person.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to Demon Mama.
Yeah, I find this topic very interesting because it seems to reveal like people's general positions about and understanding of freedom of speech. I with regard to Nick Fuentes is still absolutely free to discuss whatever he wants anywhere except for on Twitter and any other company that has decided that they don't want him on there. I think that it would undermine the function of the internet as it currently stands to demand that full First Amendment protections are extended to everyone on every platform. I mean, for example, what if you had like a crocheting board and you were just trying to talk about crocheting, but you had people coming in and constantly spamming threads about how they think slavery is good or whatever? That would ruin the space. Companies, like it or not, need to have the ability to control their space. And as long as they're setting out those rules in a fair and just manner, I think that that's perfectly fine. The thing here that we're not really dealing with is a First Amendment issue. What we're dealing with here is whether or not corporations have the right to do that and how they go about doing that. I think there's a lot to be said about TOSs. I have a lot of criticisms for the TOS of a lot of these websites, but I don't think that we can outright denounce their right to remove someone who they believe is toxic to their space on First Amendment grounds. This is not, in this case, in my opinion, a First Amendment issue at all. I do think that there's a big issue with censorship of speech. My channel has been hit multiple times, falsely, mind you, on YouTube, on Twitch, and on Twitter, interestingly. So I have a lot of issues with the way that they enforce the TOS, which is usually automated and there's no human involvement. But I don't think this is a First Amendment issue, and I don't think we should pretend that it's a First Amendment issue. It does a disservice to the actual discussion.
Muted, of course, professional streamer. Now we're going to throw it over to Connor.
Yeah, so I think the Sprouticus brings up an interesting thought experiment that we could do that I think has to be the logical extension of anybody who says that free speech prescription should apply to the internet space. Weirdly enough, I think I could potentially agree with this, but what I think would need to be done is we would need to have the same kind of speech codes that you have in public. So for instance, if you do threatening or harassing speech, which I would include repeatedly misgendering somebody as harassing speech, could that be potentially criminal? And then the cops literally come to your house and arrest you. If somebody doxes you, publishes your personal information, is that something that could be criminal? If they do stalking, could that be criminal? And should these be enforced cross-border? Basically meaning that if somebody in the state of Florida threatens somebody in the state of New York and they say, hey, I'm going to come to your house and shoot you, should the cops, basically, regardless of whether or not they think that that threat is credible, should that fall under a stalking statute, as it would if that person lived in the same city or lived in an adjacent state? So I think that's a whole can of worms that if we want to follow the free speech prescription, I think we should probably run down some of those thought tangents. I do kind of go with the TOS argument just for like ease of manageability. I think that if we went with the free speech codes, it would be the Wild West. And then on top of that, we would very quickly find out exactly what the limits of free speech are, because basically we would have cops knocking on doors countrywide, policing the internet behavior of Americans, which is, I think, something that people don't want, which is not currently, that's not currently necessary under the TOS private market model. I'll leave it there.
Okay, next is going to be American Nacho.
Yeah, so basically, I'm kind of with I think a few other people now have basically said that they should be able to ban people according to their TOS or for whatever reason. I'm kind of on the private business ownership side on this. I think that it's their business, it's their call. Like, you can kick people out of your stores for like no shirt, no shoes, no service, whatever. I think part of this goes to, there's like a couple solutions, but maybe one is to like reword the part of section 230. It's like C subsection A or something, where it's like platforms can remove content that is obscene, lewd, lascivious, or otherwise objectionable, or something like that. So if we can define or kind of like reword that to understand what otherwise objectionable is, or provide an option that is basically free reign, and that would be like the UPS of or the USPS of social media, this government provided hellscape of free speech and whatever you want to say whenever you want to say it, because although we still have our First Amendment right to basically gather and protest and speak our piece, the town square isn't really the best place to actually be heard anymore, and it's pretty clear that the internet is the place to be if we want lots of voices to hear us, or if we want to feel like we're being heard. So yeah, that's basically it.
Got it.
I don't really care about Nick being banned.
Got you. We're throwing it over to Supreme.
Yeah, I think that Nick Fuentes being banned off Twitter is actually really shocking, and it's kind of horrifying, and I think it sends a really ominous message. And I don't see a lot of people speaking on it from this angle. But what it says, Nick Fuentes being banned on Twitter, it makes a very strong statement that you can be Nick Fuentes, who's basically a neo-Nazi, and say the stuff that Nick Fuentes does, and go this long without being banned on Twitter, which I consider personally a moral good for our continued promotion of mental health, better education, and social development. Personally, I want to see Twitter's TOS open up such that everybody's banned. I think the more people that Twitter bans, the better. I wouldn't consider this censorship. I would just consider this a promotion of mental health and our general well-being. Aside from that, I just want to say it doesn't really matter what what we think Twitter should be. At the end of the day, Twitter is a publicly traded company. At the end of the day, Twitter having a TOS and how they tailor their TOS and how they enforce their TOS is done for the benefit of their shareholders. Because at the end of the day, it's a business that has to be profitable. And, if their advertisers are weary to advertise on a site that, houses Nick Fuentes or posts certain types of content, then, or the types of content that Nick Fuentes is going to engage in, then if that scares away, like advertisers, then it impacts negatively the profitability of the company. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that's the only thing they ought to be concerned about. It's a publicly traded company.
Okay, and we're going to throw it over to Hans.
Best for last, obviously. I'm not going to try and reach out anything that anyone else already said. Supreme is right. Twitter is a cesspool, even though I get to post amazing thirst traps on it. Connor is right in terms of free speech. Like, if we try and take it away from the TOS system, things would probably fall apart. American Nacho's correct in that most publicly traded businesses need to look after the bottom line, and TOS helps protect that. But I want to make a specific argument about the concept. This is largely for Sproutacus, but everyone can feel free to take into this. Is the concept of how a free market of ideas can exist. And right now on this panel, no one I believe here is banned. And we have a massive swath. We have anarchists, we have market socialists, we have conservatives. I don't know how far right Sproutacus and Turk are, but I assume they're right wing. So that means we have an excellent spattering of people. And there are people, I would say on the right and the left, that I would be very comfortable getting off platform for the sake of having decent discourse. Because if you want to be able to have an actual dialogue, some people are not should not be allowed to be at the table. I would put Nazis in that. I would put certain flavors of aggressive tankies in that, and other flavors of genocide denial that I find extremely discomforting and disgusting. So yeah, I would hope that as we cultivate spaces for us to have these conversations, that we try and look for we would put limits on the edges, and I think most of us agree on the limits. It just would be a disagreement on where those limits are in particular. So thank you.
Wonderful. So before we start, this is going to be edited out, so the editor can put this at the beginning of the segment, and it is to address the Vosh thing, because I keep getting comments and messages about Vosh losing the Hippy Dippy Championship, and the idea that I screwed Vosh. And I just wanted to quickly say that some would say that I screwed Vosh. Vosh would definitely tell you that I screwed him, but I look at that from a different standpoint. I look at it from the standpoint of not Danabo screwed Vosh, or Geek definitely did not screw Vosh, or any other superstar in this business screwed him. It certainly isn't Dylan Burns that screwed Vosh. I truly believe that Vosh screwed Vosh, and he can look in the mirror and know that. I will certainly take responsibility for any decision I've ever made, and I've never had a problem doing that. Not all my decisions are accurate. They're not. But when I make a bad decision, I'm not above saying that I'm sorry and try to do the best about it that I can. Hopefully, the batting average is pretty good. I make more good decisions than probably bad decisions. And as far as screwing Vosh is concerned, there's a time-honored tradition in this streaming panel business. And that is when somebody leaves, they show the right amount of respect to the superstars in this case, that the people that helped make you a superstar. And I mean, you show the proper amount of respect to the organization that helped create the superstar that he was when it came to the panel business and the championship business. That's something I would have never expected from Vosh, because he's known as somewhat of a traditionalist in this business. it would never have crossed my mind that he wouldn't want to show the right amount of respect to the organization that helped make him the superstar that he is now post Hippy Dippy. I don't know why he made that bad decision, Vosh's decision, but at the end of the day, Vosh screwed Vosh. Anyway, we're going to go now start the topic. Any of you can pick it off.
Yeah, so Hans, quick just question. You mentioned a string of people that should be banned from Twitter. Are members of Antifa who organize riots and promote for violence towards others, should they be banned as well?
Like, and specifically like the people who are like organizing to hurt other people, like just other random people on the street. Yeah, I'd be totally fine with taking those people down.
And then also members of foreign governments that promote their own national propaganda and stuff, they should be banned from Twitter as well.
In terms of national governments, I would take that a little less. I would probably say no for that, mostly because governments need to like be able to like put out their own statements, and like obviously like if they're putting out propaganda, we know it's propaganda. I've seen propaganda from the Chinese government, I've seen propaganda from the Russian government, I've seen propaganda from like the United States government. Like every like nation probably has to have some capacity to like put its stuff out into the world, and everyone is allowed to criticize it. But in the case of like private figures, smaller entities, I give them a lot less credence than nation states.
So the president of the United States should be banned.
If the because there already is a White House or a presidential Twitter that he can use to like put his messages out through, but if his specific conduct is so potentially disastrous for the stability of a country, I would potentially say that, yeah, that's entirely possible, because there are dozens of legal channels that he is allowed to go out through, right? Like, no one's censoring Trump when he was president in the sense that, oh, if he wants to be heard, he can stage a press briefing and everyone will go watch him at any time of his choosing, day or night, because he's the motherfucking president. So I don't have a huge issue with that. But if he, like, on his personal Twitter is saying a bunch of really crazy shit that like could be like incentivizing like violence and stuff, I'd probably say probably not. And I don't think that's inconsistent, because it doesn't like remove his official capacity, because he still has official channels with which to like do his like media stuff.
But he should still be banned, because the things he says and the ideas he's wanting to promote with others go counter to what you just exactly said a moment ago, that people should be able to say whatever they want.
I didn't say people should be able to say whatever. I literally started this panel by saying that there are like certain positions that I think are ban worthy, and I don't think this is any flavor of a gotcha to like to say that to me. I think I've been like extremely clear.
You know, we're kind of like dancing around the reality, which is that that Donald Trump was like warned by this platform a number of times for violating the TOS repeatedly. He didn't just violate the TOS in one way; he violated it in numerous ways.
But
Donald Trump was
doing similar stuff as well. They're not being banned and they're not being warned.
Sorry, what's that? You cut out for a second when you were trying to interrupt me.
That's fine. I was going to say that there are plenty of other accounts that are doing similar things where they're not getting warned that we know of, and they're not being actively banned from the platform.
You're absolutely right.
Absolutely true. Probably go report those, is what I would say.
No, I want to go.
If you know that somebody's like planning terrorism and you're not doing anything about it, like what are you doing?
Also, the Turk. There's been a lot of really interesting things that have happened with this with Republicans on Twitter, because like certain Republicans have been banned, and other people have asked and said, "Oh, other Republican officials are saying similar things to potential like figures like Fuentes or like what Trump has done, but they haven't been banned yet." And I believe Twitter's response was, "If we adequately enforce the TOS as written, virtually every Republican official with a Twitter account would be banned." And they're like.
This is true, yeah.
If you want to enforce it like fully, we can take the Republican Party entirely off Twitter. Like sure, if we want to be more consistent, like I'd be down with that. Like
at least 4 people on the panel at least mentioned that the TOS should.
One moment. Can I add? Who just Hans? Did you just say you would be fine with the Republican Party completely being banned off Twitter?
I'm saying if the issue that the Turk raised was about inconsistency, and that we ban certain officials and not other officials, I would say that yes, if 2 officials are making the exact same statement, and both of them are public figures, and they have like say like official accounts they can use, then I would say yeah, you can ban their private account for like putting out like potentially damaging or dangerous information, and for the sake of consistency that the Turk is like desperately like wanting, again, like, and I can totally understand that, and I can vibe with that for like from a TOS perspective. You want to be able to enforce things like across the board, and if that means banning 99% of the Republican Party off of Twitter because they're saying like insane shit,
I'm saying election officials, not saying like bog standard, like Republican regular people, then yeah, that's totally fine. And like consistency's happy, everyone's happy. TOS has been like punished for violations, and we're all happy. So yeah.
Why should the Republican Party get special treatment if a bunch of their members are making death threats, or if, I mean, let's even just go into a hypothetical here. Let's just pretend that that it's not the Republican Party we're talking about. Let's say a new party forms up. We'll call it the Trumplican Party, and this party is just, their members are just constantly engaging in hate speech, or constantly engaging in violent threats, or constantly like saying things like, "Oh, I think Twitter should be destroyed," or all kinds of things. Why would we give them? Why would you give them special treatment? There's another problem that's going on here. That again, it's just like there's almost like this willingness to exist in like a hypothetical world instead of the actual world, which is that when Trump was banned, every single action that was taken against Trump was like heavily documented by Twitter publicly. Twitter even released a massive blog explaining the reasoning for why they decided to remove Trump from Twitter. They don't do that for almost anybody else. Most people just get banned, and you might get an email that says, "Hey, this was the tweet that did it," and that's about it. So Twitter went above and beyond to try and facilitate Trump's presence on their platform, even though he was actively engaging in things that violated the TOS. I think that it's absurd to claim that like this was some sort of like frivolous action or punitive action that was taken by Twitter, or some sort of conspiracy. It's simply not true. They documented every single step that they take. They even invented new features that didn't previously exist on the platform to facilitate Donald Trump still being on the platform without putting them in a position where they couldn't run their own platform. I'm not a big fan of Twitter. Like, I have a lot of problems with the way that Twitter runs things. I have a lot of problems with the way that they enforce their TOS. A lot of it is done automated. There are people who get banned all the time for like disagreeing or using certain terms. For example, like one thing that gets brought up quite frequently is that the term TERF, trans exclusionary radical feminist, is a term that often gets mass reported and mass flagged. This is an exploit. It's not anything. There's nothing wrong with saying something like that. There's nothing at all wrong with saying like that. It's not even classifiable as hate speech. However, because of the way that the bots work, people are able to use that to get people thrown off the system. But that's a problem with how the TOS is enforced, and not a problem with the TOS itself.
I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't even really matter, because they're, like I said earlier, they're a private business, and they can throw out whoever they want.
But should they be? But should they be? The question is should, right? So the question is underneath current law. The question isn't like, oh, underneath current law, can Twitter do this? The question did not include the word can. The question was
legally
should.
They can.
And I would no. The question, that's why the question didn't include can, Nacho, because the question was should. And so we're arguing right now. What's being argued about is can. And I want to bring up something that Dima Mamo was talking about. The idea that violence only comes from the right is absolutely pathetic, and it's fear-mongering. Okay.
Wait, I don't think anyone said that. I just said that more Republicans like were banned from Twitter. But Sproutacus, when you say Twitter shouldn't be public, but like you said, like Twitter should be publicly owned, right? Like,
no, I said Twitter should be. I said Twitter should be considered the new public square, as the CEO put it in front of Congress. The CEO compared his platform to the new public square. So if he's going to compare it to the new public square, then it should be treated as the new public square. Not only that, but you're also a platform. So you don't get lawsuits. I'm still talking, please. You don't get lawsuits for things that are put on your platform by other people. You don't get lawsuits because of that, and you're protected by it. But if you decide to start picking off people you don't like, and you start choosing which narrative you want put on your platform, you are then becoming a publisher, which means you can be sued. And there's different tax laws for a publisher than there is a platform. These two things are completely and wholly different. And what everyone's wanting to be is they're wanting Twitter to be a publisher, while at the same time getting the benefits of being a platform. And that's just asinine in my mind.
That's not true. And also the idea that like I don't know where we got into the conversation where we're taking like the CEO of Twitter's sales pitches at face value. Just because the Twitter CEO says our website is so awesome, it's the new public square. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, you can't litigate based on like some random claim from like a sales pitch. That's very, very silly.
The CEO said that in front of Congress. That was not a sales pitch.
Yeah, that was a testimony.
We're gonna go.
Hold on.
It wasn't a sales pitch. It was a
okay.
thing.
So What? I'm gonna refer to rule 1. When I'm talking, nobody else is talking. So we're gonna go down the list of people who've risen their hands. Again, I think it's not too sporadic right now, so I don't think we need too much hand raising. But I'm gonna throw it first over to Connor.
Yeah, so I just want to take this opportunity to respond to your screwing Vosh statement. I hope he's allowed in the future to come back and defend his belt. I mean, like, he needs to come back and fight for it, right? If he wants it, he's got to fight for it. No? I think he's
going to be muted for a little bit, and we're going to go back down the list. We're going to go next to Xander Hall.
Censorship.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on some things that Sprouticus said. So you mentioned that Twitter is now the public square, and free speech protections ought to apply there as such. And I wanted to ask you a couple of questions following that to see what your responses would be. Are you allowed to call for violence in the public square?
No.
Okay, so if someone is calling for violence or engaging in rhetoric that naturally leads to violent action, would you agree that that's bannable on Twitter or should be?
Okay, so that was a very vague part of the last question, is saying things that will inevitably lead.
Wait, you should just answer the question first, right?
No, I can clarify. I'll clarify if you want.
I'm asking for clarification. I'm asking for clarification, right? So I don't think I should be pushed. I don't think I should be pushed by Supreme.
Well, he asked you the right question.
So I mean, I'm asking for clarification of the question. Am I not allowed to do that?
I mean,
no.
Okay, I'm glad I'm allowed to ask for clarification. Can I get some clarification on that? Because it was a very vague last part.
Sure, we'll use Nick Fuentes as an example. Nick Fuentes very often talks about how the Holocaust isn't real and how Jewish people run the world and how they're a danger to your way of life and you need to protect yourself. Would you consider that rhetoric that naturally leads to violence, especially considering he helped organize the insurrection?
Insurrection, yeah.
No. Nope.
Then it sounds like you're.
It's vile speech. It's vile speech, but it's not a call to violence. So no, it's vile speech.
So do you think?
Jewish people are horrible and monsters, and like we have to stop them?
One at a time. There's 3 people talking at the same time. I'm gonna let Xander Hall finish his line of questioning. Then I'm gonna go to Hans because they're next on the list. And I wrote your name down, Demon. Mama.
So Sprouticus, how do you feel about members of terror groups like ISIS recruiting and spreading propaganda on social media networks like Twitter?
Well, an active terrorist group, yes. Something that's legalized as a terrorist group obviously doesn't have the protections under the public square. Unless I'm confused, is ISIS allowed to go in the public square and recruit for terror? I mean, is that allowed in the public square?
They were allowed on Twitter.
Not from what I'm aware, but there have been members of ISIS, and a lot of radicalization towards these terror groups happens online. And the reason why I bring this up is that Nicholas Fuentes is literally on an FBI no-fly list. He's being investigated for his involvement, along with many other people that were there. Would that not qualify as an engaged in an attack on our capital? Would that not qualify as more or less up there with a terror group or terrorism?
I'm sorry. Does he even have charges against him? Has he been convicted of something? Because I'm pretty sure as far as the United States goes, you're innocent until proven guilty.
Why are you taking a bullet for Nick Fuentes, dude? Like, why?
I'm not taking a bullet. I'm not taking a bullet for Nick Fuentes. I can care less about that. No. Listen, I can care less about Nick Fuentes. I'm taking a bullet for free speech because what happens is they say, okay, we're gonna go after the far right. Okay, so theoretically, I shouldn't care because I'm not far right, because I don't espouse those ideas, that I shouldn't care because it's not going to affect me until it moves to the right. Then the center right's not going to care because it doesn't affect them. Then the center right gets hit. Then the center gets hit. And by the time the leftists are there, no one's going to be there to speak up for you when your protections of speech are taken away.
Spartacus, you realize I have a false strike on my YouTube channel right now, and like my channel's being suppressed because of that. And YouTube responded and doubled down. They tried to claim that I was scamming my videos. There's not an agenda against the right. The problem is these platforms put out a strict TOS against hate speech.
You can't
unfortunately,
say that, though.
Republicans have a tendency to break those rules a lot.
Xanderthal, you can't say that, though, because the reason you can't say that is because Google, Facebook, Twitter, they have all refused to release information on who they banned and why they banned them.
I agree with you there. I agree.
So they've all refused to release information. So you can't say that this isn't affecting the right on a far majority than it's affecting the left. But what I do see is can I finish?
Okay, we're gonna let Sprouticus finish. Then we're gonna return to the list.
I gotta
to get some
respond.
order. But if anybody wants to immediately respond, they can.
Is it all right if I respond to what he said after he
So
finishes?
Yes, of course.
But what I do see is I see the right talking about being banned. I see the right being banned. I don't see the same phenomenon on the left. I see the right arguing against Facebook, arguing against Twitter, trying to get their platforms back. You don't see this on the left. You see this on the right. You don't see it on the left. So that is why I say this is aimed towards the right, and that's the reason I say that. I mean,
which right figures have been banned?
Which right banned? Donald J. Trump.
Okay,
I don't really
who's a
like
guy that Twitter affirmed for a long time, kept breaking TOS, and they kept creating exceptions for him to stay on the platform in spite of him.
Supreme, listen, I really don't care what you think of Donald J. Trump. You can think Orange Man bad all you want.
Wait. I want to make sure Supreme got to finish his statement. Then Xander Hall was going to respond. Then we're going to keep going.
If you're really confident in your positions, you won't be afraid to contend with my contention, okay?
Go ahead, give me your contention.
Okay? Listen, we talked about this earlier, right? Like Donald Trump, Twitter affirmed for a long time that Donald Trump kept breaking TOS, and Twitter kept telling everyone, we want to ban him, but this would set a precedent of like banning world leaders, and we don't want to do that yet. They kept making exceptions to keep him on the platform when they had already affirmed that he was breaking TOS, and were he not the president of the United States, they would have banned him.
The only reason they didn't ban Donald Trump is because he was the president of the United States. It's the only reason they gave him all these exceptions to the rules. You don't see this with Steven Crowder. You don't see this with John Burke. You don't see this with big political right people on social media. Those are the people you don't see it with, because they don't hold a public office in which it'd be very, very much the decision would be very much debated whether or not you made a good decision or not.
Okay, so what I asked you was which figures on the right have been banned to make this argument that Twitter keeps banning conservatives or whatever. What other conservative figures have been banned on Twitter? I'm curious.
I mean, it's more than just banning, right? So you can understand censoring is more than just banning. It's suspending. It's shadow banning.
So you don't have an answer to that. To be clear.
I mean, can I finish? Can I finish?
Okay.
I mean, am I allowed to give you a fucking answer, Supreme? Because you just want to keep interrupting me and not letting me give you an answer.
You've been talking a lot, like.
No, but everyone's asking me questions. I mean, if everyone wants to ask me questions, then I'm going to talk a lot because I'm responding to everybody.
That's okay.
So, with that being said, censorship is more than just banning. There's shadow banning. There's suppressing. There's demonetization. There's I probably banning as well. But these are all attempts for censorship.
Can you name some figures?
Yeah, Steven Crowder, John Burke, Ben Shapiro, Donald J. Trump. I can keep moving on. Huh?
Like Crowder's
he accepted all. He accepted all of what I said. Shadow banning, demonetization.
Shapiro banned?
Suspended.
Suspended, yeah. But Crowder was suspended for giving fake COVID-19 claims,
which he does all the time. And like, is a public health hazard
because the claims change, and he was citing a reputable source, but that was still enough to get him banned.
I disagree with that.
I mean, even the New York Post was censored.
Okay.
So
Xander Hall, you wanted to respond to something, and then we're gonna go down the list from Connor, Demon, and Turk.
All right, so you mentioned before that there's an agenda or a disproportionate enforcement of the TOS on conservatives, and you don't see it as much with people on the left. And the reason why I bring that up is if you read TOS, for the most part, a lot of the rules you'll find are don't discriminate against people based on their gender identity, sexuality, race, etc. Don't engage in hate speech towards these groups. And unfortunately, if you go to any conservative media outlet or any conservative YouTube channel, you'll find that the vast majority of their content is talking about how the trans ideology is turning are trying to make it so that kids are cutting their dicks off, or how BLM is a terrorist organization and there's no problem, and black people are just thugs or whatever. Unfortunately, when a lot of the rhetoric of conservatives right now is racist, transphobic, sexist, or homophobic, you're going to find that TOS they're gonna get caught in it more. But I do agree There needs to be changes made. Since YouTube, for example, is a lot of people's jobs, if YouTube is your job, then you should at the very least be notified as to why you are being punished when that happens. I think that's a huge problem. Lots of people have been just banned for no reason by YouTube because it's all bots and automated, and these are their jobs. And I completely agree there needs to be more communication with the platforms and those that are employed on those platforms. I completely agree on that.
I'm glad we can agree, but that was a wild mischaracterization of the right. To say that the overall majority of the right's videos or the right's content on social media is suggesting that black people are thugs. That was
my job is responding to these videos.
Wild mischaracterization of the right.
I can contest this, but I can either wait.
Then we got to return to the list afterwards.
Just go to the list, and I'll put it on my list of things.
Okay, you are right after Connor. So Connor.
Thank you, Demon Mama. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too.
Also, I was instrumental in the freeing of Connor. Let it be known. After I held up my sign, Connor was freed. I have democratic power. I am the voice of the people.
Thank you. Democracy proves its
let me do this about. In the next year, it's gonna rain. That was me. Okay, continue.
All right. So I just want everybody to put on their thinking caps and invert some of the logic that we're using here. Oftentimes, lefties, liberals, progressives are using the free market rhetoric, which is why it's so effective, by the way, for right wingers. But I'm wondering if this logic is going to hold when it comes to platforms like Getter, the Twitter clone that is conservative, that is going to have its own TOS, that is probably going to allow a whole bunch of nefarious shit that you don't want, and is probably going to be a lot more lax. Are we going to be saying that they are a private corporation who is allowed to control their speech, and as long as it doesn't get within the realm of directly calling for violence, and Getter goes ahead and accepts a certain amount of not liability, but they're barred from liability. So even if something nefarious is planned on their platform, then are we going to be giving them a pass and just saying that this is their TOS? So yeah, sure, free market wins again. And then what I have two more points before we go off. I am never going to defend Nick Fuentes, but what I would say is real in this country is Christian nationalism, basically a combination of like a kind of like Christian theocracy. I think that's very real. People who don't necessarily care about the Constitution, they care about implementing their worldview that's rooted in religion on everybody else. And then I think that there is something that is hypocritical about the left versus right. Supreme was asking for specific examples. I'll give you specific examples. So as Xander Hall brought up, the Twitter terms of service are often along hate crime demographics. That's what it is. That's what it is. Race, gender, color, creed, all that kind of stuff. What's not necessarily punished, which I find abhorrent, is like mass slaughter, denial, and promotion. And this is something that's really frustrating for me dealing with tankies in particular, because they're basically talking about like, oh, hey, the kulaks deserved it. Well, the kulaks were a class of Ukrainians, 70 years ago, so they deserved it. Stalin should have purged more people. A tweet that I reported that is still standing, and the content that is the profile is still standing, by the way. And basically, so people who are advocating for mass slaughter and authoritarian politics, but receive no punishment because despite excusing the mass execution of human beings, it's not along racial or religious lines. So I find that disgusting. I think that's a loophole that should be closed. And if we were looking for terms of service equal application, I would be a whole lot less butthurt if Nick Fuentes was being banned for making cookie memes and all that kind of shit, if that person who was apologizing for mass slaughter was also banned. So I'll leave it there for now.
I agree with Connor.
Next is going to be Demon Mama.
I've been waiting a long time, so I have a couple of things I want to address. First of all, Sprouticus, I find it like almost hilariously silly that you would reference the words of Martin Niemöller, first they came for the socialists, et cetera, in talking about in defense of a Holocaust denier. I mean, I find that just very ironic. But that's a rather small note. So the couple of issues here. First of all, to respond immediately to build off of something that Connor says, I actually think that there's a very good chance that account will be removed. But keep in mind that account not being removed right now is not like a good argument or indication of any bias. Remember, how long has Nick Fuentes been on the platform? Unfortunately, we know that we know that Twitter is very, very slow with this sort of stuff. So I don't think that's I don't think that should be used as evidence of any sort of bias. It's just that they're slow to any of this stuff. As we know, Nick Fuentes is not exactly the most subtle individual with some of the things that he says. So there's a couple of other things I wanted to touch on. First of all, this is from a bit ago. This was talking about the difference between a publisher versus a platform. This is not a binary. It's not just you switch over into the publisher category or you fall into the platform category. A publisher is very, very specific. When we're talking about a publisher, we're talking about an organization that specifically curates what's on its webpage. So for example, and in fact, some organizations are both publishers and platforms. An example of this is the New York Times is a publisher, but their comments section is a platform. And that's because the structure is different. They are legally distinct. They can, the New York Times can be held liable for publishing an article, for choosing to put out an article and put their stamp on it and say, this is official, this is media, this is journalism. But they can't be done that for some asshole in their comments, because these are different. These are just different internet structures that people are refusing to acknowledge the difference between. Secondly, with regard to the ISIS issue, I think that's an interesting one, because I think some free speech, like hardcore free speech people, would be able to successfully argue that ISIS does have a right to recruit in public as long as they're not explicitly encouraging violence. I don't think that's the case. I think that's fucked up. But the fact of the matter is that that's a big issue. If you have people who are recruiting in public, clamping down on their freedom of speech can actually become a legitimate freedom of speech issue. But we don't want that happening on every website. Can you imagine if nickjr.com had ISIS people like recruiting children? Come on, that's ridiculous. That wouldn't even function as a website. You wouldn't be able to have any website. No website would work. In addition, a lot of what I've been hearing here is a lot of allegations of a conspiracy, allusions to a conspiracy for which there is no actual evidence. I've not seen actual evidence that there is any bias. I've just heard an assertion that there is a bias towards right-wingers. And also, to build off of that with what Xanderhall said, I can give you an example of someone right now who is not banned, not been hindered by YouTube whatsoever, who legitimately puts out what I consider to be explicit hate speech, and that's Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh has a massive YouTube account. Matt Walsh literally makes videos, and I've watched these on my stream and reviewed them on stream, where he accuses authors of promoting pedophilia for having a book that explains LGBT terms for kids. That is absolutely hateful rhetoric. We know that it's arguably slander or libel. I can't remember which one is which at the moment. But these right-wingers get away with this stuff all the time, and I think that is in violation of the TOS. But you don't see it enforced. If you're going to allege that there's some sort of mass conspiracy to control the narrative, you have to actually prove evidence of that. Otherwise, you may as well be talking about UFOs.
Can I have a brief introduction?
So, there was some mischaracterization of me that I'd like to address during that.
Okay, so first we're going to go Sprout, and which probably is going to develop into a back and forth. But Turk has been waiting very patiently. He even put his baseball cap on backwards, so I'm going to make sure that we get over to him. Then Connor, of course, eventually you. But Sprout, you can respond.
Okay. So the mischaracterization of me, of course, was saying that I was defending Nick Fuentes. I've said it again and again and again that I'm not defending Nick Fuentes. People ask me why I was taking a bullet for Nick Fuentes. I'm not taking a bullet for Nick Fuentes. I'm taking a bullet for free speech. And I've said that before, and I'll say it again. I really don't care what happens to Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is none of my concern. What is my concern is the freedom of speech, considering I started this panel off saying I'm a constitutionalist conservative. So, I mean, to argue that I'm defending Nick Fuentes is quite disgusting, to argue that I'm defending what he's saying and saying that I think that the freedom of speech should prevail. That is a quite disgusting mischaracterization.
But do you realize that you defending the right to say those things tacitly means you're okay with him being around and spewing his vile shit? You're okay with that. That's the position you're supporting, is you're letting Nick Fuentes continue to be around and say those things and say horrible things and deny the Holocaust. All sorts of insane shit like that. And then, you want to hide behind I'm just a constitutional conservative. And that's totally fine, dude. But realize the people that you're enabling. Because those TSs are pretty fucking broad. You have to do some pretty insane shit to get banned. Or there has to be some really shady shit. Which again, we all want more transparency. But the people on the fringes that would use this the most are either genocide deniers or Nazis or some flavor of one or the other, right? So I just want to know if you're okay with that.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to
Pile
clarify
on.
your
Okay, so I want to let Sprouticus respond one at a time. I don't want to make like one to the next to the next. So Sprouticus.
He just made a thing against me, so.
Okay, so what your basic statement is saying that it's enabling these people the freedom of speech, like I said before, like I said in my opening statement, it needs to be for the most offensive of speech, because when you're not saying something that's not offensive, when you're not saying something that doesn't go against other people, when you're not saying something against power, you're not saying something that no one else would disagree with, then you don't need the protections of the First Amendment. It's only when you offend someone, it's only when you disagree with somebody, it's only when you don't have the popular opinion that you need the protections of the First Amendment, because you are the weak man on the totem pole. So yes, I would say that the First Amendment needs to be applied to even the most vile of speech. There's already been Supreme Court cases limiting the First Amendment, such as you can't say fire in a movie theater, which I have no problems with. But if you want that done, then that needs to be done through a convention of the states, and maybe you can change the First Amendment to say that you can't misgender somebody if that's really how you feel. But no, I'm defending the First Amendment as it stands right now, that it needs to stand for the most vile of speech, because if it doesn't stand for the most vile of speech, then it doesn't stand at all.
Yes, it does.
Do you think
No,
organizing an insurrection on the Capitol of the United States is just vile, offensive speech?
Or who organized it?
It was organized in part by Nicholas Fuentes, along with, I think his name was Ali
Has he been
Alexander.
charged? Has he been charged?
He is currently on an FBI no-fly list.
Has he
I'm
been
pretty
charged?
sure he's in the process.
Has he been charged?
He literally-
Has he been?
I don't know if he's been
Wait,
charged.
wait.
How is that
Has he been
not?
charged?
What?
Yet convicted.
No, Hans.
I'm sorry.
Why does it matter if he's been charged or not?
Has he been charged yet less convicted? Yes or no?
He admitted to being part of it. Why does this matter? Whether or
Has
not
he been
took part of
charged yet less convicted?
it? I don't know. I don't think so. He's
Okay,
we're running.
so innocent until proven guilty.
I can't.
So innocent
He admitted to it.
Okay.
Innocent until proven guilty, right?
Okay.
OJ was never found guilty. We know he did.
Listen,
you can be. Did nobody here?
What's up?
Okay. You little adorable rapscallions. Okay, we're gonna now go back to the list. We're gonna go Turk, then Connor, then Demon.
Can I get my one little thing in? There was a small contention.
It's 6 seconds. 6 seconds.
Okay. 6 seconds. Okay. Listen.
You said
all I was
small
saying.
contention. Okay.
Okay, I don't believe I used the word defend Nick Fuentes directly. However, I do think it's odd that you would trot out an explicitly anti-Nazi statement in defense of a Nazi. That you are ultimately defending Nick Fuentes, even if you're not defending him immediately. You're defending his actions.
Okay, we're gonna go over to Turk.
Yeah. So a few things. So to Demon Mama, you mentioned there's a difference between a publisher and a platform. Yeah. So when Twitter starts to insert comments into tweets such as this hasn't been verified by somebody or whatever, or they decide to hide someone's comment in a thread saying this is something that you've selected to not look at, even though you haven't selected to not look at, is that not considered editorial direction? Because you're alerting and notifying them that they are going into something they might not want to see.
That's absurd. The idea that them putting a warning about on certain tweets that they think are like dangerous to their platform or dangerous beyond that's editorial. That's ridiculous. Do you know, like, have you ever, I don't know if you've ever like worked with writing or at all, but an editor literally reads over your entire piece, will make massive changes to it, usually retitles it, usually actually changes the structure of a piece. And editorial oversight is a huge process. It's not just putting a random, like putting a warning out there. And as far as I know, once again, if you think that they're editorializing with a specific bias, you have to prove that. You can't just motion at like some sort of conspiracy that you have in your head. You have to actually prove that they're doing that. To my knowledge, most of what they've put out there has been very specifically tied to current ongoing events, such as I don't know, the insurrection, things that could literally put people's lives on the line, which I think is well within their rights to say, hey, be careful. We don't know what's going on with this. Don't hurt yourself. The same way as, for example, Discord will often put warnings on like, hey, this person has sent you a message and they're not on your friends list and they're sending you a link. It might be spam. Are you saying that your email is using editorial privilege for filtering your spam folder? That's absurd. This is just, it's almost childish in the way that it's formulated. Like, come on, like an editor is somebody who literally rewrites and puts a final stamp on a piece of media that's then published. They're not the same thing at all, not even close. I do think that there's a hold on. I do think that there's a conversation to be had about how these companies determine what sort of like auto modding decisions or what sort of like warnings they put out there. But they're not even in the same galaxy. They're it's so different from that. And if you want to say that like, oh, there's Jack Dorsey is secretly implementing a mind control propaganda campaign by controlling the narrative via warnings about scams and misinformation, then you have to provide evidence for that, because until then you just sound like David Icke.
I'm glad you educated me on what an editor does. I'm glad you think
you're welcome. You're very welcome.
Stuff. No, because that was really condescending, and that's the
you're
way
welcome.
you roll.
I know, but listen, sometimes people say something really silly, and I just got to correct it. You know.
No, the question was, do you think if that is editorialization? You could have said no, I don't, and then I could have gone to my next point. But you took 5 minutes to explain some stupid response.
No, I'm very kind and patient.
I mean, Turk. This is coming from somebody who has mischaracterized me twice.
Okay. Let's let Turk finish. Just want to make sure Turk has time to finish.
I've been published on the internet. If you can go to my page, you can find my links to that stuff. I'm completely aware of what editorialization is. I wanted clarity in your point.
That's very good for you. I'm glad you're very smart.
And then, so to
wait, I'm sorry. Did you have anything of substance, or were you just going to complain about?
So wait. I asked for us all to give Turk some time to finish his point. I would like us to do that, please.
Did she get muted like Connor did?
Sprout, by you doing that, it's just taking more time away from Turk. Turk, please.
And I'll shorten my next one. It's like, so Demon and Xander, y'all both got strikes on your YouTube channel, right?
Yeah.
So what I've learned from the lefty sphere on Twitter is that you're not getting censored and you're not getting punished. You're getting what you deserved. So my advice would be to go through the process according to the platform and try and get their strike removed. Otherwise, your content is what got the strike and you got to deal with it. And that's just the nature of the platform. So sorry. I feel
so are you claiming that I'm hypocritical because I think it's okay if like a conservative who engages in the rhetoric that they tend to engage in gets banned for hate speech, but then I am upset that I get falsely striked for scamming in a political stream?
You're mischaracterizing what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, from my right-leaning perspective, that is what I've been told by people, because what we do is consequences for our actions, and if we say something stupid, we deserve to get punished or consequences. So
I'm sorry. Like, what is this? Can you wait, real quick? Can you tell me what this is a response to? This literally just feels like
more interruptions by the person above me.
Wait, excuse me. I didn't interrupt. He was done talking, and then
he wasn't done talking.
He literally had stopped talking. And listen, Sprouticus,
after you started talking,
I understand that you're really desperate.
So can we not waste time on the boorish fucking like Don Quixote tilting in windmills?
So how about this? Let's replace the second topic with the who was Turk done or not done talking discussion. That's going to replace immigration now, okay? So we're going to have that. That's going to be new. That's going to be 30 minutes of dialogue for that. Okay. So this feels like it's going a little nowhere now. So I'm going to move it over to Connor and Zan, and then we're going to wrap the topic up. So we're going to go over to Connor and then Zan.
Yay! I have a direct response for Demon Mama. I'm super excited to do this. So I feel like we need to pick a lane intellectually. So you're saying that there's no bias against conservatives, but then when kind of the other thing that we're saying here is that conservatives are more likely to commit hate speech, whether that's misgendering, talking about black people being inferior, like all that kind of stuff. So what I would say is that if we're identifying this as a variable of conservative rhetoric, and as a result, they're being banned more often, then this would still show a bias. Now, maybe it's a positive bias because that's not the kind of speech that you want to permit. But I would still say that that's showing that there's a certain kind of rhetoric that's being preferred over a certain kind of rhetoric. I do have another point before I let anybody else talk. And then I also think that this is a really interesting point about free speech, specifically to Sprouticus. So, for instance, like I served in the global war on terror. I was a teenager when 9/11 happened. International jihadism is a personal problem of mine, but I think the world is globalizing and we have to face that issue. I am not just concerned with Christian nationalism. I am also concerned with authoritarian Islamic theocracy. While ISIS might not be able to recruit in the public square because we've deemed them a terrorist organization and they're not able to, there are other Islamist organizations like Hizb ut-Tahrir in Australia that are basically Islamist organizations that advocate against democracy in the public forum. They literally say, this is bullshit. The Western way of the world is bullshit. We would prefer to have a theocracy and all that kind of stuff. And what I'm saying with that is universal liberalism has to have rules that apply to everybody. So if we're going to have free speech for Christian nationalists and anti-Semites, and we're going to like force that down on platforms and publishers, then we have to have that when it comes to Islamists. And I'll leave it there. So I gave you both 2 points. So
if you're recruiting,
wait, I was asked first. I know that's hard.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So first of all, I understand where you're coming from, Connor, but I never asserted that there for sure was not a bias against right-wing people, or nor did I assert that I do tend to think that right-wingers have a propensity towards doing like antisocial behaviors that ruin platforms, but that's a different discussion. I never made either of those claims that you claimed that I did. However, with that in mind, the only like hard piece of data that I've seen that shows a bias, I actually have a doc.
Oh, Demon Mama, you're gone.
I think we lost you.
Cut out.
We lost Demon Mama.
My apologies. Am I here? Yes. Sorry about that. My apologies. What I was saying is I never made those those assertions that you claimed I did. I do tend to think on a different discussion we could discuss like the propensity towards violence. And I will note that if it's true, if you're saying that Republicans using violent rhetoric like as a trend makes them discriminated against by these platforms, I would say that it would apply to ISIS as well. Because if you think that, oh, well, you can't discriminate against Republicans when they're being violent, well, then you can't discriminate against ISIS when they're being violent. We have to recognize that even if your ideology includes a whole lot of violence, that could make you unfit for a space. But secondly, the only hard data I've been able to find about online bias to this point is a report that was done in February by NYU, which I can provide to the chat if you so desire. It was also written about in The Guardian. It was fact-checking and challenging claims made by Senator Ted Cruz. And it actually showed that the algorithms tend to promote right-wing content more than left-wing content on a passive. Now, of course, with regard to bans, that was much harder because a lot of that is not like publicly available information. But with regard to public algorithms, right-wing content is actually quite favored on Facebook and Twitter specifically with regard as far as the hard data goes. What my argument that I was making this entire time was that there have been numerous of the right-wingers on this panel, or rather I should say two of them, because I should say two of the right-wingers, not all of them. But two of the right-wingers on this panel have made claims that there is such a bias that exists, and in fact, they've made the claim that it's like rampant and a huge societal issue. If that's the case, it should be no issue to actually prove that, but they don't. They just let it lie in the realm of speculation and conspiracy. Again, just like some sort of UFO conspiracy theorist.
Another wild mischaracterization of what I was saying. I'm gonna respond to what I'm gonna respond. Can I respond?
You gotta give me a moment here, okay? Because we gotta wrap it up because we're running out of time. So what we're going to do is we're going. Okay, I understand that. Give me a fucking second. Okay, everybody has outros. Okay, I know this is the magical card no one remembered. So we're going to go into outros. I did promise Zan he was gonna have some time to speak. And then I saw Sprouticus was asked by like multiple people, multiple statements were made towards him. So I'll give him like 20 to 30 more seconds to everybody else to like respond, since he's been the person who's kind of piled on. So Zan and Sprouticus will be going first to respond. Or do you want to go last, because more people might make comment towards you? What do you
I'd
think?
like to go last.
Okay, so we're gonna go to Zan first.
Okay, yeah. Really quickly, I just want to respond to what the Turk said a moment ago before we moved on from that, because I think there might be a misunderstanding here. I want to make this very clear. You could have me on here and rant about it all day. I completely disagree with the way that platforms, specifically YouTube, because that's my ballpark for the most part, engage in their enforcement of TOS. I don't like that it's mostly done by bots. I don't like the fact that there's situations like what just happened with Mutahar, some ordinary gamers who made a video debunking scam content and warning people about it, got a false strike, submitted an appeal, and 2 minutes later, with it being completely impossible for the video to get appealed, was rejected. I don't like that you have to be a large YouTuber to have that responded to. I think the way that YouTube and platforms like this engage in TOS needs to be overhauled, so that there's a lot more communication between the content creator and the platform to ensure that content creator is aware of what's going on. Even if this was like Nick Fuentes getting banned, I would want YouTube to have contact with him directly, a person, to say, this is why you're getting banned, these are your infractions, and here's how you can try to appeal it. So I just want to make sure there's no ambiguity there. And then really quickly, I just want to leave my final statement as a response to something small that Sprouticus brought up about whether or not Nick Fuentes has been charged. He is not, from my understanding. I know he's under investigation. I know he's on an FBI no-fly list, but he has admitted that he took part and helped organize the Capitol riot. But I'll go ahead and leave it off with this quote from Nick Fuentes really quick. Don't worry, I'll leave out any slurs, okay? This was a quote from Nick Fuentes. There's a video of it if you want a source on it. I am unapologetic. I thought the Capitol riot was awesome. It was awesome. And so was Trump. And Trump was awesome because he was racist. Trump was awesome because he was sexist, Fuentes stated. And the only thing Trump wasn't awesome for was being anti-Semitic. He wasn't anti-Semitic. So I just want to leave it off on that.
So Trump wasn't an anti-Semite. Gotcha, cucks. Anyway, we're going to go next over to Turk.
I was going to ask Demon Mama if she thought that I was one of those conservatives that think it's a huge conspiracy theory. Because if you go back to my... Hold on a second. Sorry, I'm benchmarking, doing work. If you go back to my opening statement, I said that, yes, conservatives are being censored, but also the left is being censored. And I think the problem is the people that are being censored on the left is not being as... visible on some sites or news outlets, because it's not as concerning to some people. You know, I hear about these things, and that's why I'm in favor of not banning people. I am very much in favor of free speech. And I think y'all mischaracterized my statement about the whole YouTube thing. It's like, I hope these things get turned around, because Xander, I agree. The bots should not be in charge of saying you deserve to be stricken or you should be removed from a platform, because that is not fair and balanced like most people would like to see in a free country. So I think that Nick Fuentes probably should have been banned, and Twitter is a private company. They're allowed to do such a thing. And you know, I wish they would enforce TOS consistently across all accounts, not people, not organizations, but accounts.
We have no disagreement there.
Okay, we're going to throw it over to Supreme.
I just want to address the mischaracterizations and my mischaracterizations.
You will get an extra 20 seconds to speak for your cat. Okay, continue.
Okay. All right. Here's what I want to say. Unlike my compatriots on this panel, I don't want the content on Twitter to be to be moderated equally, because it's just not practical. It's not pragmatic. I'm with you, Connor. I wanted to address this a long time ago. I'm not going to shed any tears if tankies get banned off Twitter for, denying Holocaust or whatever. And I even think they should. However, I think we ought to be able to recognize that there's 500 million tweets a day. It is humanly impossible for there to be for there to be moderation of Twitter without automation. And that we ought to prioritize what gets moderated based on the influence that Twitter users have, right? So Donald J. Trump is a lot different, right? Inciting a riot at the Capitol is a lot different than anime Stalin 420 fucking, posting like 1 out of 60 billion tweet thread about like denying the Holocaust or whatever the fuck, right? Like at the end of the day, like it's about the impact that these people are going to have, and we ought to prioritize how we moderate things in that way. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't care about this topic. It's fucking dumb. I really don't care how Twitter exercises its moderation. And the chicken says that she would also appreciate if I got off Twitter because it's bad for our relationship. I don't pet her enough. That's it.
True. Gonna throw it over to Nacho.
Yeah, so the fact is that there's some solutions to this issue, and both sides have been a victim of these censors. Yet the only thing that comes up whenever we talk about this is like an attempt to justify like whether or not their side should or shouldn't be banned and why the other side should.
Fuck Twitter.
And all the while, like the corporations remain in control of the mainstream narrative and the platform and the town square that we're all supposed to be able to participate on. So again, you know, I mean, some people were so willing to defend their own side that they were trying to pretend that like Twitter and Facebook and all these places are not the town square, which I thought was pretty bizarre. If you want to get a message out.
I'm going to deafen for a moment so I can clarify something. I do think bots are necessary because you have to have some amount of automation on these platforms, the size of Twitter and YouTube, etc. Though I do think that there's a certain threshold where you've gotten to a point where this is clearly your job. And that's my biggest concern. The fact that if you have 60,000 subs like I did, this is my job. YouTube, without any necessary explanation, can give me a strike, and 3 of those falsely, by the way, did not break the TOS, and I can lose my job because of that. This isn't a thing you can do in real life. Like if you have a real life wage slave job, your boss can't just come up to you and fire you with no warning, and boom, you're no longer getting pay. There needs to be some sort of way of keeping that up in on YouTube just as much as in real life.
Yeah, so Demon Mama, I wasn't trying to be prescriptive, I was trying to be descriptive. So I was just trying to make like a logical sequence of, if conservatives engage in negative behavior, that might have a selection bias for them being banned for that negative behavior. And then I'm pretty sure if I Google bias, that'll follow. It's not a question of whether or not it's good, but I would just say whether or not it controls the Overton window in favor of either more moderate behavior or more liberal behavior. So let's segment that out. So I also wanted to make a comment about why I think online commentary favors the right wing. And I think that's because the mainstream favors like the moderate left. If you look at MSNBC, CNN, all those programs or whatever, it seems like there's enough like social public propaganda in the mainstream that is kind of like centrist, moderate left pretty much. Whereas the right wing doesn't really feel representative. All they have is Tucker Carlson and Fox News. So they have to create their own heroes. And I think that's why there's an imbalance when it comes to the popularity of right-wing content on social media content. But obviously you can't go too far. Once you start talking about the Jewish question or, brain sizes or phrenology or race realism or something like that, you're going to start getting banned. Now, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. I'm being descriptive, not prescriptive here. So Supreme basically brought up how I think this is one of the strongest points, is that it's a question of volume. These things are incredibly difficult to control. Even if you assign people to it, it'd be very difficult to control. The algorithms are imperfect. We're all victims of the algorithm. I get hit for fair use all the time. I basically have to submit half my videos for fair use claims. And so basically what I would advocate for is a new category of publisher versus platform, a new set of rules that includes the volume considerations of a social media platform. And that could be the title. Social media platform that basically reduces the liability of these platforms because after all, they're hosting speech, but also gives them some powers in order to moderate their content, because we half of us are on twitter.com and we all know that is an unmitigated hellscape, even with the amount of moderation that we already have. And I am not going to shit on Twitter, by the way. I enjoy it. This morning, I quote tweeted a parody account of Vosh, taking it dead seriously, and I got ratioed before I even had my fucking morning cup of coffee. And I was like, only on Twitter could this beautiful social interaction happen. So I hate and love Twitter in equal measure. I'll leave it there, and thank you.
Okay. Next, we're going to be throwing it over to Hans.
All right. Not trying to retread anything. Obviously, if you actually want to change how these platforms operate to hopefully like save more people, this is like largely for Spartacus, but everyone in the audience as well. You either can leave it, the TOS as it is. You can start holding these platforms accountable for the things people say on them, which I promise will have even more censoring and more deplatforming, because if they're legally liable for shit, they'll start banning anyone. I got a warning for saying, give your energy to spirit bomb someone in in Georgia during like the election. And like that was just like, they said bombs, like be careful, even though it was a Dragon Ball Z reference. But And the last thing is you have like government regulate everything, like Connor said, having cops going around like going to people's houses to make sure like tweets go. Of these three things, all of them sound like absolutely fucking horrible. But the TOS one seems like it's most functional in terms of how we operate. If we want more transparency, like Xander has been talking about, then abso-fucking-lutely, we obviously need that. It feels really cringe when you get like when you get TOS or when you get a strike for something that you don't really understand or really understand why. That would be super helpful. But as it is, this is like the best of all the horrible worlds. Like, I don't see a functioning platform where free speech is magically going around and we only ever hit the bad people, or we let all the bad people go around and then just perfectly insulate everyone from like the most horrendous statements possible. We have to make choices, and right now we live in a capitalist society. They'll make the choices based on marketability, and I'm sorry, it turns out being a Nazi just isn't making anyone fucking money anymore. Unless you're Nick Fuentes, but he's also struggling because he can't get a credit card, which is fucking hilarious. All right, anyway, that's all I got.
Okay, next we're going to throw it over to Demon Mama.
Yeah, so one small thing that I wanted to just push a little bit back on Connor, though I think Connor touched on a lot of things that I would agree with. I think that with regard to the right wing in the mainstream, I think it's largely a matter of self-definition. Remember that Fox News is the most popular news channel in the country, and Rush Limbaugh is was the most popular news presenter in the world of all time. As in, so like when it comes to radio, Rush Limbaugh and Rush Limbaugh's associates were most of talk radio across America. There's literally almost no liberal or left-wing representation in America on the radio. So, but Republicans and right-wingers frequently insist, mostly inspired by Donald Trump, that like the mainstream media is somehow slanted to the left in this really major way. That does, again, the facts just don't actually point out to that. That's one of the problems I have about this entire conversation, is that there's loads of conspiracy claims. There's loads of I'm being discriminated against this. There's an attempt to change the narrative in this way, and there's almost never any evidence actually presented. The evidence that does exist shows it reveals a much different conversation. We run into things like YouTube demonetizing any video that got tagged with LGBTQ tags at all. That happened like a few years ago, and people forget about that. That was something that happened, and we don't hear that come up. And the reason is that it's a different discussion. It's not really a discussion so much about free speech, but how these companies use these algorithms and what we need to do about addressing that problem. But yeah, more or less, I think that this topic is largely used to try and maintain the platform of people who actually ruin platforms. People like Nick Fuentes make platforms worse. They make it so that people can't enjoy themselves on there. They interrupt the actual function of it. And they also often do actual societal harm. And I think that these companies have a reasonable, even if you're a lefty, you have a reasonable right to say, no, we don't want that shit in our space. And that doesn't have to be a First Amendment issue. And it isn't a First Amendment issue. Thank you.
Okay, and now we're gonna wrap it up with Sprouticus.
Okay. I want to point out some things here. Demon Mama goes on about how it's consistently we don't bring facts. We've asked for the facts. We've consistently asked Facebook. We've asked Twitter. We've asked the Google to give us who's been banned, why they were banned, and then we can go through that play by play. Google, Twitter, Facebook, they've all denied this. Even Congress asked for it, and they denied Congress to be able to see this. They're holding back the facts. So you can keep talking about facts all you want. When a company holds back facts, then we don't have all the facts to talk about it. So when you say they're not bringing the facts, it's because they're not releasing them. So moving past that, Connor, I don't know what exactly you meant by you served during Global War on Terror. I served during Global War on Terror as well. If you're actively trying to recruit to a terrorist organization, then that's already against the freedom of speech. That's not something that I would propose that should be allowed. I thought I made that perfectly clear. Evidently, I didn't make it clear enough. So the publisher versus platform, there's obviously a huge difference between publisher versus platform. And as DMI pointed out, there can be portions of sites that are platforms on a publisher's site. Just like if I post on Facebook something, I can get sued for what I say. Facebook can't get sued for what I say. Same idea. And the no evidence of bias. I wanted to address that as well. There is the...
I'm going to go ahead and interrupt this intelligible rant here. Hey guys, is my so on my screen everything looks good. I can't see what my my Streamlabs looks like, but is my like movement all laggy or anything like that? Because maybe it's my computer getting overloaded. But when I went and I looked at my stream on Twitch and YouTube, it shows it as being very laggy. Yeah, I'm dropping frames. Okay, well we're just gonna push through it. Once once the panel is over, we'll be fine. Delay, my movement's fine. Okay, yeah, we're gonna push through it, and it should be fine and back to normal and smooth and everything once the panel's over.
Somebody wanting Nancy Pelosi to visit the border. So the question is simple: how is the Biden administration, dealing with the topic of immigration, and how should we tackle the topic of immigration, and how is this comparable to the last administration? It's just a general topic about immigration. You could kind of take it in any direction, but those are some framing questions I'm going to throw out to the crowd. Is there anybody who wants to take us off first? Anybody wants to take us off the ground first? Demon Mama was first.
Yeah, I'll open up. Sorry, I thought that the immigration was the one that we were bumping off, but that's fine. Okay, so there's a number of ways that I can approach this. With regard to, if we're talking about the Biden administration, I don't think that the Biden administration has adequately addressed the issues with immigration in our country. We still have massive detention facilities that are detaining children. This is horrible. This is a human rights violation that we should take very, very seriously. This is something that I've criticized Biden for and will continue to criticize Biden for from the left. However, I'm sure we're going to hear all kinds of various types of fear mongering about the damage that scary immigrants do to our economy and whatever. I just want to get out in front of that by saying that this is simply not true. Every single piece of credible evidence that we have, every single economic research paper, even ones from right-wing sources, have shown that immigration actually just helps the economy. There are very few people, if any, who are negatively affected by an increase in immigration. If people are coming here, it's because there's jobs, it's because there's opportunities. And those people also, being people, have needs which improve which improve our economy. They both fill and create new needs. We don't have a space issue in the United States. We have some issues with housing, but I would say that's an issue of how we delegate housing and not necessarily how much housing we have. And the only actual demographic of people in this country who are impacted at all negatively by immigration is a very small slice of people who are high school dropouts. And keep in mind that the decrease in their average wage is so minor as to be much cheaper to offset, not by building a police state around enforcing immigration, but rather just by giving stimulus for people to finish high school. It's cheaper and it's better to do it this way. Fear mongering over immigration is a America first obsession that doesn't actually have its grounds in reality, and it is almost always coming from some sort of misguided notion of keeping America pure, even if that's not what people say on the face.
Is it all right if I add a bit?
I mean, you can go after. Well, sure. Throw it to Xander Hall next, but we're going in like an order here. So Xander Hall next.
Oh, I can go?
Yes, I said Xander Hall next.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to add on a little bit to what Demon Mama said, because our minds are on the same track in this respect, so it'd be weird to like cut them up. But yeah, I think Biden's administration is handling things not how I would like to see it handled for the most part. I think there have been some improvements. I think Kamala Harris recently did a speech about how they're going to be giving I think billions of dollars in support to Guatemala to help root out corruption and the power of crime and gangs in the country, which is an impetus for a lot of people to make the dangerous journey to try to illegally immigrate into America. We obviously know that the wall would be useless. Most illegal immigration is done through overstaying work visas, for example. Just like Demon Mama said, it's been overwhelmingly demonstrated that immigration does not harm the economy. It doesn't harm the lives of people who live here. Immigrants commit less crime relative to the native population. They still pay taxes in the form of gas tax, property tax, depending on the state, sales tax. Overall, it seems like it's just a net benefit, and I do agree that it's usually people who have some ulterior motives whenever they rail against immigration. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Next, we're gonna throw it over to Sprouticus.
There's a difference between legal and illegal immigration. That's how I'm gonna start this statement off. Is there's a difference between legal and illegal immigration. Most, actually, all the conservatives I talk to agree that legal legal immigration is great and needs to happen inside the United States of America. Illegal immigration is not. So illegal immigrants, they come over, they skip the line. When illegal immigrants come over, we could take less legal immigrants because we have less room. During that year, we can only take so many immigrants per year. There's a cap on that. But moving past that, they skip the line. So legal immigrants can't come. The ones who have been waiting 6 years, trying to get in, can't come. And you can always try to claim asylum if you're scared for your own safety inside of your own country. That is a process. You don't need to become an illegal immigrant to go through the asylum process. But it's funny that people are saying the wall's not going to stop anything. I mean, it's surely not going to stop anything. It's going to slow things down, such as MS-13, which I didn't know MS-13 came over and did such great things for the United States of America. If they did, go ahead and post that. But they definitely do cause harm to the United States of America. That's what the border wall is specifically designed to stop, is the human smuggling, MS-13, gangs, drugs, etc., and so on. And so when you take a look at it that way, it paints a whole different picture than what the left is going to try and paint, that these are just poor people that need to do this, need to do that. And that's why the wall was put there, was to keep these poor people out, and they should just be able to come to the United States of America, and this should just happen. Okay, so it's the wall was not designed for those people. The wall was designed for the MS-13 problem that we have, obviously in California, obviously in Arizona, in these border states. We have this MS-13 problem, and that's what the wall is designed to keep out. I think if you're here as an illegal immigrant, you should be deported. I don't care how long you've been here. You broke the rules. If you'd like to try and come back, then try and come back legally. And try to do it the legal process and wait just like everyone else has to. Unless, of course, you fear for your life, then you can go through the asylum process, which is a more expedited process, and you can try to do it that way as well.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to American Nacho.
Yeah, so this isn't just a case of like or like a question of like how many people and how much land. It's more of like what kind of system that you have. So like, for example, New Zealand's population is like half that of New York City, and they have all kinds of barriers against immigration. They have 30 million sheep and like 4.9 million people, and vast amount of available land. But once you set foot there, you get you have access to like all kind of benefits, and therefore the taxpayers are pretty adamant about keeping their border secure, like who gets into immigration, like how many people they're going to let in per year, etc. The same kind of thing happens in Germany, and that's why you see like great hostility towards immigrants sometimes in Germany and many other countries. Like, this is not like a unique situation where, oh, it's just America, like we're just the worst person on the planet because we want to secure our borders. If you're pro mask, in my opinion, you should be pro-wall, right? This is not a solution that's like the end-all, be-all cure to immigration. We're never going to have illegal immigration if we put up a wall. No, but it will help, right? We've already seen cases this year, or yeah, I think this year, or at least in the past like year or 2 years, where the sections of wall that we already have put up have been like cut through, right? So now we know, well, this is a focus point. This is somewhere we can patrol a little bit heavier, and we can stop these kind of things from happening. So I'm also pro legal immigration and pretty much against illegal immigration. That's pretty much my stance.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to Connor.
Thanks, buddy. I know that in 2016 or 2017, a bunch of right-wing pundits tried to make the economic argument. I don't give a fuck about that argument. Let's just like move past it and concede it already that like immigrants are a net positive to the economy, because otherwise we're just going to be here all fucking night. What I do care about, what has to be maintained no matter what levels of immigration we do, is the defense of a liberal republic. It's something that I care about. It's not just bullshit to me. It's not just an ideology to me. It's actually a series of principles that I hold near and dear, that I want to perpetuate. Sprouticus and I probably agree most on this situation, that I think the Constitution is fucking based. And I think it's an incredible document that sets up a pretty cool structure. The three things that I care about most are the freedom of conscience, the right to self-defense, including against the government, and limited government, meaning that the government follows its own rules. I also believe in a state. I am not an anarchist. I believe in a state as a necessary administrative body that provides essential goods and services to a society. I think that's absolutely fucking necessary, and I think anarchism is a pipe dream, and Twitter is the example of why it's a pipe dream. I wanted to just briefly address immigrant crime rates being less than that of the native population. I think that's true. I also think that's partially a reporting issue. Unfortunately, a lot of immigrants are the victims of crimes. Sometimes they're victims within their own community, and they don't report it because they don't want to be deported. I think there's something that we could probably do in order to try to bring them into the fore, because obviously that's fucked up. If you get stabbed or robbed and you can't even report it to the police, or raped, and you can't even report it to the police because you fear deportation. So we have to do something. Also, I have a compromise solution. I think we can annex all the way down to Panama. And then we can help Colombia restore the idea of Simón Bolivar to reconstitute Grand Colombia. So Colombia basically rules all of South America, and then North America, becomes its own thing. And then basically we go from the United States of America, like pussy ass virgin United States of America, to the United States of America, literally a continent spanning empire that basically benefits all. All right, so I'm going to quote one more thing, and then I'm going to let go. So basically, there's a movie that I'm reviewing. It's called Full Metal Jacket. It's phenomenal. It's about the Vietnam War. And in it, it says politically incorrectly that inside every Vietnamese person, he uses a different term, is an American. I believe that. I think there's certain ideological virtues that we hold that are universal that need to be promoted. And I don't think that we can use immigration as a solution to solve all the world's problems. I think that we need to promote stability abroad. Yield.
Okay.
Not bad.
We're going to throw it over to the Turk.
Yes, I've been in these immigration panels on this show several times, and I'm still a really compassionate person. I really would like for immigrants to come and be taken care of and all of that good stuff. And I'm really delighted to hear from two of the people, other people on the panel, that they are not happy with how the Biden administration is handling the current crisis. If you call it a surge or crisis, whatever, it doesn't matter. So I'm really interested in hearing what are some of the solutions, because not a lot of people are for the wall. I don't want to talk about the wall. This is Biden's administration. So I'm interested how you want to increase funding, how you want to increase the amount of camps and processing centers, as well as judges and attorneys that are willing to help speed some of these processes up. Because, I would like for people to be accounted for and tallied and got properly accounted for, instead of them coming illegally, because we are a nation of laws. And if I could quote Biden when he was talking about the Olympian who, got tested for THC or whatever, it's like there are rules, and, you go into this knowing those rules beforehand. So we've got to follow the rules.
Wonderful. Now we're going to throw it over to Supreme.
Man, my thoughts on this are kind of scattered. And unlike Connor, I'm not just going to concede directly that there's a direct relationship between more immigration and greater economic growth, because I've been looking into this, and this seems to be something that's still pretty hotly debated between scholars and professionals in the field. And there are a lot of it's a really complex topic with a lot of dynamic elements. There are a lot of elements to be considered, and there are a lot of studies. The social science on this, I guess per se, is largely still underdeveloped. There are just so many factors to consider, and like population planning is such an important discipline when it comes to urban development, and it's like really I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not super well prepared for this, but there are really strong arguments for, first off, like considering immigrants as one amalgamous group, where one is has all the same details and qualifications as the next is kind of fallacious. There are a lot of problems potentially with the fact that like a large influx of undocumented immigrants means that like payroll taxes for that group don't get paid. And if, there are a lot of social services, roads, education and stuff that rely on municipal and state funding, which, states and municipalities have to work within their budgets, and those budgets are projected based on population. And suddenly you have, an influx of people that are having to use those systems that are requiring more maintenance and more upkeep and stuff. It requires greater funds. And it's like an investment period. It's not the case that as soon as a bunch of people move into this place, then the economy goes up, 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 and everyone's, great and fine. There is a potential for there to be potential periods of negative impact that could pose a danger of not recovering. And I think this has been the case with, Miami. I was reading about the Miami boat lifts today and how, that's still not solved to this day. We enjoy a lot of freedom of movement in this country. And in order to achieve this, we kind of rely on market forces by and large for this. Like, in order to move in this country, there's nothing particularly forbidding you from doing so long as you're not a convicted felon or something like that. I guess there are some restrictions that apply there. But aside from that, as long as you can find a job and a place to live, you're not restricted from moving from place to place. And this is when visas are granted, like work visas and the like, they're done with the with the foreknowledge of where people are going to go. And this is another part of population planning that ends up being really helpful to urban developers. And I understand a lot of the arguments, which are hotly contested to this day, where a lot of a large influx of undocumented immigrants can pose a lot of problems for municipalities. They can raise rent prices for low-income housing and stuff very quickly. I mean, that's actually pretty much solved. It has a tendency to create ethnic enclaves, which reduces mobility for ensuing generations of people that are descendants of those undocumented immigrants, and it creates cycles of poverty that are this is aided by further vetting through our natural immigration process and visa granting process. So yeah, I just don't want to give carte blanche to the idea that more immigration, just letting people in. I'm not super amenable to the open borders argument anymore after reading up on this.
Okay, we're gonna throw it over to Hans, and then Dima, you haven't gone yet, correct?
No, I went first, but I have some things I'd like to say once we open up. But.
So I'm going to throw it to Hans, and I believe that everybody else is gone, so then it will open up. I have to use the bathroom desperately, so I'll be right back. These glasses, also, everybody for chat, here's a game. Every time Xander Hall blows a ring, just take a shot. That might be me doing a very dangerous thing to chat, but just throwing it out there. Be right back, guys.
My AC is on, so it's hard to blow good ones. There's too much air movement.
Oh I was gonna say I didn't know there was gonna be a drinking game. I would have bought beer. I've been doing a dry couple days. I'm trying to take care of my health, get rid of my beer belly that I got during COVID. But
I have switched from beer and alcohol to weed. I've been getting high every night liking to the PKA podcast.
I'm always gonna get beer, so
it's it just doesn't work for me. I don't know why. I just it just doesn't do it for me.
Debate immigration, you whores! What are you doing?
I thought we're waiting for Dylan.
Yeah, I didn't know if I was supposed to go. I was nervous that I would have to shout people down during my opening statement, and and everyone Dylan is gone. I am in the center of the ring, which means I am now the moderator. Hello, everyone.
Well, you're not doing it. Moderate yourself, okay? Make yourself speak.
I was no, we gotta wait, because what if Sproutacus needs to hear what I say? Maybe I might mischaracterize him. I don't want I will never mischaracterize someone unless it's to their face, in which I will do it endlessly, and I will never ever stop.
Fair enough.
I think Homie's had a lot of I think Homie's had a decent amount of talking time. I think we're all right.
Well, that was Hansa's opening statement.
Excuse me. This is opening statements. I don't know why there's back and forth going on here. I'm cooking food and I hear back and forth. No, Hans, this is opening statements. No interrupting. Hans, complete your opening statement.
Then why are you interrupting me right now?
Because everybody else was talking. Opening statements, Hans. Please, you have 60 seconds on the clock.
I have 60 seconds on the clock. I was waiting for Dylan. I thought I feel like you want to know my high level idea.
You don't need to know. Okay, go.
I'm being bullied. Dylan, I'm being silenced. All right, everyone. Real talk. All right, let's get serious. So, everyone Demon Mama and Xander Hall have made excellent moral arguments. I'm not going to retread them. I'm going to start talking about big, meaty thick logistics. So, my issues with the Biden administration is largely that we're not putting enough money into our immigration system. Whether you want less immigration, whether you want more immigration, I think we should all agree that having an underfunded immigration system that does not see cases swiftly, that does not say like bar immigration, like leaves people at the border unnecessarily for weeks at a time, potentially even months. I think that is absolutely abhorrent. If someone is applying for immigration, we should be able to process them quickly and efficiently. And then if that is the case, we should start allowing them into the country. For the case of illegal immigrants on like inside our nation, if we want to use like the term that Spartacus said, I don't want to mischaracterize them by using a different word. If I want to protect American workers, I think the best way to do that would be to legalize all of the illegal immigrants and then start using labor protection so they don't undercut American labor if you're really, 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 really worried about American workers. If we want to make sure that we're doing that, we should probably make sure that people aren't getting paid $2 a day to undercut farm workers. So we should probably be paying them, minimum wage. And hopefully that minimum wage is a living wage. So hopefully we can put more money to fix our broken immigration system so we can process people more quickly. And then as a bleeding heart lefty, I want more immigration. I think immigration is spaced and poggers. I come from a small rural town and it kind of sucks and sad because it's just a bunch of white bread and we don't have good food. So I want to make our country better. I want to make it more diverse. I want to make it stronger. And I want to protect everyone, whether they're domestic workers here or whether they're illegal workers or just whether they're like any flavor of worker here. I want them to have the same labor protections that everyone deserves. And I want the labor protection in the United States to be stronger. And the way you did that is by funding our fucking immigration system, by training more judges, training more public assistance for this. And yeah, that's how we get to it. Whether you're right or left, I hope we can agree on that.
Okay, now it is open to the room. I see a lot of people raising their hands. And okay, let me be clear about how hand raising is supposed to work. It isn't just a declaration of I must speak. You raise your hand when you've like shown clearly. It was like I can't get into this because this is too chaotic. Then I'll write you down, get it over to you. So it isn't just like a declaration of please, I want to speak. It's like it was like kind of like a last resort. Like fuck, I can't get in there. So let's not raise our hands right off the bat.
Well, I raise my hand because I want to be polite and not get interrupted whenever I do.
I'm ready to get in there. Put me in.
Yeah, me too. I'm ready too.
I'm gonna get all of it.
I love Turk, but I don't want to get interrupted. Fucking just steamroll them. So I'm gonna give it to Turk first.
Yeah. So I'm really glad that Hans had a pretty good similar stance that I have. My question to Hans
We're talking
is
about
be,
immigration.
How are you going to pay for it? So we are a country of limited resources. We're already trying to pass all sorts of other progressive agenda items that require substantial increases in taxes to some corporations, some people, etc. How are you planning on funding this effort?
Absolutely. I have an excellent answer for this. So one, illegal immigrants pay less taxes than they would if they were legal. And also if they were legal, they would probably be making more money. So if you have legalized workers inside the United States, they're probably paying more taxes, which can help benefit the system. And then if we have I would probably say that we would have less issues and less logistical problems in terms of like dealing with the immigration system if we were finally able to smooth everything over. Because right now we literally have like tent cities of tens of thousands of people like at the southern border waiting to be processed. And that is a logistical nightmare, taking resources, money, all sorts of stuff. And yes, like I'm not saying it's ever going to be perfect. There's always going to be waiting times, right? But in the case of, say, like missing children, unaccompanied minors, that sort of stuff right there, right? They're supposed to be legally processed within, like, say, I think it's like 3 weeks or some shit like that. So if we want to do that, if we want to follow our own laws, it's time to pump some more fucking money. If that means raising taxes, then we got to raise taxes. That means you have to raise taxes on, like, the immigrants themselves, like, who are now making living wages. We can fucking do that. Like, here's the thing. Our government is exceptional at finding money for things it deems necessary. And when it doesn't seem something necessary, it doesn't, like, seem to give a shit. I think fixing our immigration system is extremely necessary, and I'm willing to pump however much money it takes into it to fix it. I don't think it's going to be a multi-trillion-dollar process. I think it just means we should probably, I think right now our immigration system is about 6 times slower in terms of like the average number of days that it takes for someone to get processed. It's like 120 days as opposed to like 21. And we're supposed to do it in 3 weeks. So that means we have to probably, what's 5 times quintuple our budget for immigration so we can get like enough people hired for our immigration system. And whatever that ends up being, I'm totally fine paying that price. I hope that answers your question.
Hans, are you speaking about asylum? Are you speaking about asylum seekers or legal immigration? Because there's a huge difference between the two. Are you speaking about asylum seekers?
Both.
Okay, because legal immigration is a list. You're on a list, and it typically
I know
it's by lottery.
my dad's an immigrant. Yeah, I know.
Okay, so
yeah.
it's not just 120 days. Typically, it's years because of how big our list is. We can't just accept the entire world into the United States of America. That's just not realistic. You saw what happened when Great Britain overdid its immigration, and now Great Britain has a lot of problems due to that.
Like what? What
problem? Immigrants not following the laws. They've actually had terrorist attacks.
Oh, can you give an example of that? Though?
Yeah, I can. If you give me a second. So they've actually had terrorist attacks recently, due to letting terrorists in, by not actually doing the background checks on immigration. This is proven. It's been fact checked. I'll find it for you. I'll post it in Dylan's chat for you once I get the chance. Once I'm not talking, that way I'm not doing two things at once. But what I am saying is, so are you, Hans? Are you for or against illegal? It sounds like you were for illegal immigrants becoming legal immigrants, right? You're for that? Okay. I would almost 100% disagree with you there, because they broke the rules. There were rules, there were laws. They consciously broke them, knowing that would put them where they are today. And when you break the rules, and there's people that are waiting and just hoping and praying they'll get that letter or that email or however we send out immigration request grants, right? So however we send those out, they're just praying and hoping they'll hear back from America. They broke the rules and decided to skip the entire line, decided they were more important than everybody else. So since they decided they're more important than everybody else, I say deport them back to the country of origin, and then they can try and come back again if they'd like to, or if they try and immigrate somewhere else, feel free. But if you're gonna sit here and break the rules and say you're more important than everybody else, then no, you're now at the back of the line. Congratulations.
All right, so I don't know anything about the Britain stuff, so I'll throw it to Demon Mama to respond to that after I respond your particular border logistical question. Yeah, I in the case of the illegal workers, I am very much pro worker regardless of whether they're illegal or not. And what I would ask you is how the fuck is it possible to suddenly displace 11 million people and then adequately get them to go back home to their countries in any way that isn't a logistical fucking nightmare? What I'm saying isn't just a moral question. It's literally fucking impossible. We have 11 million people that are undocumented in the United States. How do we get them back to Guatemala or any flavor of other South American countries? Maybe someone's from Peru. How do we get them back to Peru? It takes so much energy and effort that I would much rather just legalize them, make sure they're not undercutting American labor by making sure everyone has the same labor protections, and then make sure they're paying fucking taxes. If they stay here for a certain period of time and then they go back home, then they don't get benefits. My father is an immigrant. Like I said, I used to have Australian citizenship. I gave it up because America is the best country in the world, obviously, and I love my fucking country so much.
Sure.
And Australia is just sad British people, or nice British people, actually. And so, yeah, he will get benefits eventually. I'm not saying give everyone citizenship. There obviously should be a pathway if you live here long enough. Options should be open to anyone who lives here long enough. But again, this isn't just an issue of whether or not I think it's good they broke the rules. I think they should be able to participate in society, and they should start funding the society that they're participating in. I think that's a completely normal thing. And I'd also say if we care about rule breaking so much, I don't know why you were standing so hard for people who broke the rules on TOS on Twitter last time, but I really appreciate it.
So what I'm saying is that they said it was that Jack Dorsey. No, stop. Jack Dorsey went before Congress and testified that his platform was essentially becoming the new public square. With that being said, then with the First Amendment. Can I move on?
No. Okay.
Thanks, Hans.
Okay, we muted both you and Hans. Let me be very clear. What topic is this?
Immigration.
Thank you very much. So, can somebody, Hans, can you tell me Jack Dorsey's immigration policy?
I actually don't know it. I'm really sorry.
Okay. Wait, no. Sprouticus, can you tell me Jack Dorsey's stance on immigration, what he has publicly stated?
No.
No, okay. So let's not talk about what the fuck Jack Dorsey has to say, or what the fuck anybody has to say about the last topic. We're talking about this topic. So we're going to stay on topic, okay? Does everybody understand this?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Fucking crisscross applesauce? Wonderful.
Yes.
Now let's stay on topic.
I want to apologize to Dylan first because I was said I was being not flip flopping kind of. So I just want to apologize for going off on that little rant. So Hans, how do we take care of this problem, right? So you asked how do we logistically take care of this problem? Well, first we let ICE do it. First we let ICE do what ICE does. We let ICE find illegal immigrants and deport them back to their country of origin, like ICE has been doing. Second, we go after the companies. We go after the companies that are hiring illegal immigrants. Make sure that they don't hire illegal immigrants. Give these illegal immigrants zero money, zero work. And eventually they will self-deport. The mixture of those two things will ensure that we're not the people who broke the rules go back, and if they want to come back inside of America, then they could decide that they can go through the legal process. And if they don't want to go through the legal process, that's fine. You can find a different country to go to. But America's not the place for you. We're a country of laws. We're a country of law and order. And we're gonna keep it that way. So. So either you are going to follow the laws and come here legally, or you're going to come here illegally and take your chances of having no job, no work, or getting deported.
All right, cool. So, just quickly responding to that, ICE really wants to, stop them, right? If we care about ICE and their capabilities. ICE conducted 185,000 removals during 2020, which means for them to successfully remove all of the immigrants, right? I assume you want to do this, in a quick and logistically, a correct framework. In a year, that means their capacity would have to be increased by a factor of 55. More than 55. So if we're really going to pretend that we're going to be able to massively deport everybody, and that is the simple solution, and funding ICE and making it 55 times
Did I say bigger. Just ICE? Did I say just ICE? I believe I had a second part to that.
It doesn't matter what uniform they're wearing. It costs money, right?
Yeah, it costs money.
I didn't say just police.
Sprout. Thank you.
Hans, then Sprout.
Sprout. I'm making a very basic argument that it is easier to keep them here, to make them pay taxes, because right now they don't pay that much in taxes. And then, if they are here long enough, we can give them citizenship because they're already here, they're already working here. And the process of removing them takes more money than if we just let them stay here and pay taxes. This is not me being a bleeding heart. This is me saying, but in the most ice cold asshole position ever, being just let them fucking stay. Yeah, I'm being so utilitarian, it's nuts. And I get that you want to punish the bad people because they broke rules and we got to stop them, and that's fine. And I'm really sorry that we aren't going to be able to logistically do that because I just explained how it's fucking impossible unless you want to 5 times is already a lot. I'll bite that bullet that 5 times the amount of immigration lawyers and judges and stuff in courts. That's a lot of fucking money. I'll bite that bullet. But are we really going to massively expand immigration security so much that we can found literally millions of people and put them back at the same rate that they're coming in? It is so wrong. And if you want to expand courts, which I do, and we want to have more people more courts for asylum, we want to we can argue about caps on immigration. I want them to go up. I assume you want them to go down. And that is totally fine. But I would say a more important thing is funding our immigration system. And then if you want to start talking about deportations, I would say it's just not worth the money. And I'm really sorry. We want to punish the bad people, but here's just a strict utilitarian argument. We always care about there's homeless veterans and shit, right? There's not enough money to go around. You know what's a really fucking dumb waste of money? Is we're kicking people out who are contributing to our economy, who aren't getting really any benefits from it, when they could be giving us more benefits if we just say, oh, you're legal now, please start paying your goddamn taxes.
This is something.
Okay. By the way, I don't know who it is, but somebody has an echo, and it is not a false flag echo as accused by Jackson Hinkle, but it is an echo. So somebody is gonna have to figure that out. So everybody's raising their hand, and so I'm gonna go to the person who has not talked that much, and so that person is. Give me a second, Sprout. It's going to be Nacho after Sprouticus finishes responding. Okay.
Okay. So, I'm just curious. I'm genuinely curious on whether or not I accidentally muted myself during the second half of after I was done talking about ICE, because that wasn't addressed whatsoever. The accusation that was made is that I wanted ICE to multiply by 55 times to make sure we could deport all the illegals. That was I don't know if people just didn't hear the second half, but I'll just say the second half again just in case. Make sure I'm not muted here. All right, I'm good.
Hey, Lonnie, do you think you could pick me up a disposable mint vape before the shops close? Thank you, baby.
Hire illegals, give the illegals zero money, zero work. We can even go after the banks that give illegals loans and make sure they don't get any loans, and eventually they'll self-deport. That was the second half that evidently was missed entirely. I didn't say multiply ISIS by. I didn't say multiply ICE by any time, any number. And I said let ICE do what ICE does. So with that being said, like that's what I said, and it's very, very funny to me that they're just going to leave out the entire second half of my solution and pretend like half of my solution was my entire solution. I just find that hilarious.
Hey, quit crying.
I can answer the second half too. Everyone, you know how long he talked about how we have to punish the banks and we have to punish the businesses. We have to try and starve the immigrants so that they'll flee back home. And we have to punish anyone who is participating in the illegal immigration system. That's a lot of fucking words. That's a lot of fucking things. You know what we could just do instead? Legalize them and then tax them as workers because they're already working.
Hans, I have a very simple question for you that I think is quite obvious. The simple question is, how does this not become a perverse incentive?
How does this not how does this not become a perverse incentive? It already takes. Like,
how about that? How do you feel about that, Hans? Legalize them, but fine them for like a undocumented crossing.
Okay. Can I? Because I think I was supposed to somewhere. Can I just hop in, please, with my base centrist take? Okay, because I'm in the middle of basically both of you guys' position here. I'm all here for the law and order, and I'm with Connor when he says like, how does this not become an incentive? Because that's what I'm afraid of too, right? I don't want this to become like, oh, well, fuck going there legally, because if we go there illegally and we just say we've been there for like 5 years, then, and we get two like witnesses to like vouch for us, because some of this stuff was like in the Biden administration's like most recent bill that I think got passed or was like at least on the table. So it would incentivize people to come here illegally because it would be maybe cheaper, even though it is more dangerous. It might be cheaper, it might be faster than waiting in line, right? So I'm also okay with like, let's look at all these cases. Because we have so many people that we're looking at deporting already, right? So if there's someone who like has a family, obviously they have incentive to work, they have incentive to participate in our like economy. And I'm with Hans when you say like you care about the laborers. If you care about the laborers, then you definitely want these people to be legal and not illegal, right? So you could look at each case individually and still deport a certain amount of people, and as a way to maybe pay for that process, you can find the countries where they're coming from, or maybe find the individuals themselves. I don't know how you would go about that, but maybe there would be a way that you could enforce like some kind of tariff or some kind of like something on to make sure that like maybe you should police the cartel better. Maybe you should, you know what I'm saying? Like it seems like there's a middle ground somewhere. It seems like there's a policy that could kind of like cover and like kill two birds with one stone.
They sort of already have this, right? So what you can actually do that's very simple for this is, in terms of legalization, you can give them, you can like legalize them, but you can either make them have a longer path to citizenship and say, instead of like, you know, like I don't know how many years it currently takes for like a legal like immigrant to become a citizen, right? Maybe say, oh, you have to be here for 20 years before you can like start potentially getting like those benefits as a citizen, right? You can say, oh, hey, like maybe your taxes are slightly higher because you came in illegally, and like that's like a form of like economic punishment for say like, you know, like a period of years. Like you can always have potential disincentives, but like Cotter, I understand that like, yes, if we make it easier for people to come here, more people will come here. My only thing is that it's probably more humane to do that, and our economy will grow and our population will grow. If you want to have like, you know, that mighty billion like strong America, the best way to do that is to like encourage immigration and then just make sure they pay their taxes.
Okay, wait.
And can I add real quick, because I had a super
okay, but it's got to be like.
Sorry, because I forgot that. Okay, I forgot to add this on the last one. So maybe it sounds like a meme, but it could probably work. Like, what if you took these illegal people or like immigrants in general and made them work for the system for a short period of time? Not made them, but like you give them a job, and part of their job is to work for immigration services to help pass through more like immigrants into the country. Like, sounds like a joke, but I mean, I don't know. It's something.
Like, they have language experience, like it could help. Like, yeah.
Okay,
sure.
So I'm going to throw it over to Demon Mama, who's been waiting very patiently. So we're gonna throw it to Demon Mama.
Deeply appreciate
and
that.
Turk.
Okay, God, there's been so much here that has been talked about. So first of all, the Sprouticus's like entire prescription is just like on its face ridiculous. The idea that we would expand enforcement and deportations, which is an incredibly expensive process that requires us to train up unique militarized police and surveillance and all that's extremely expensive, extremely inefficient, to crack down on people who are coming here frequently out of need. They're going to come here one way or another because in many cases the alternative is to die. So they're coming here for that. And they are also providing value to our country is absurd. But in addition, this idea that like you can just tell corporations to stop hiring illegal immigrants, they're called illegal immigrants. They're already not allowed to do that. You're going to have to enforce that, which is going to be more expensive. You're going to have to excuse me, I was talking. I know it's hard. You're going to have to find a way to actually enforce that, to surveil that. And again, that adds even more cost. It is literally cheaper and more efficient for us to welcome people in, even if that creates this quote unquote perverse incentive, which I don't buy. The perverse incentive isn't there because you should hand in hand simplify the immigration process. It is good for people to come here, and it is good for us to not have them be running on the run and hiding from things. The more welcoming we are to people, the more likely they are to actually follow the rules that we set out if they're reasonable. Our current process is not reasonable in any way, shape, or form. And so I don't think there's a perverse incentive that's created. There's always going to be a limit of the number of people who are moving to any one place. And you can, if you want to, you can even motion to the free market for that. Once we reach a level where there's not a whole lot of jobs available, well, people won't come here and they'll go somewhere else if you want to go all free market with it. But there's also another thing that I wanted to touch on here, which is that I pointed out in the beginning that there's never any very good economic arguments. The math just doesn't add up, that people will use that as sort of a smokescreen. And I want to point out that Sprouticus brought up two really interesting little tidbits. One, he made this extremely vague reference to, well, you know what happened to Great Britain after they let all those immigrants in, which is just so silly. Like literally just, yeah, I heard a bad thing. You might as well be talking about no-go zones. Are you gonna start breaking out that stuff? And then or whatever other pipe dream fantasy that Identity Europa spins up. But also the great irony is that in your opening statement you brought up MS-13. Oh, these murderers, these brown murderers are coming into our country. Ooh, MS-13 motherfucker was founded in LA. We exported it to Mexico. What the fuck are you talking about? This is why I get so motherfucking frustrated. I get so frustrated because there's such a level of dishonesty. Just say you don't like people from somewhere else and just own up to it. And also admit that you're willing to fund a hyper surveillance, hyper militarized internal police force that cracks down and counteracts what you actually wish to accomplish. The thing is, we already have data that shows that if you incentivize immigrants to show up to their meetings and they're not at threat of constantly getting deported, they will show up. Turns out they want to be here. And if we give them reasonable things that don't involve getting their heads cracked open with a baton, actually, they'll work with us. Wow, it's almost like treating humans like humans and actually understanding where it's coming from would make sense. And guess what? If there's still a huge issue with massive immigration from other places, you want to know what would still be cheaper than maintaining a standing army designed to crack down on immigrants? Helping those nations. They're fleeing those nations for a reason. If we invested in humanitarian aid or something along those lines to those nations, wow, we might actually be able to solve the problems that they're making them come here in the first place. It's just, this is such a backwards thinking, and all of it is done in the name of hiding the fact that you just don't like Mexicans.
What?
Wait. So we're gonna go in order here because I know this is. I ain't gonna. Sprouticus, what should we do? Should we enact chaos? I thought you were a law and order Republican.
I was called a racist. I thought I would. Yes,
everybody's gonna be able to respond, but there's a lot of people waiting. And I said Turk would be next. It's gonna be Turk.
Then it's like wanted to say something about MS-13.
Okay, so it's gonna be Connor, Turk, then Sprouticus, and of course, each person is probably gonna have it back and forth with Demon Mama. So just be ready for that.
I got to use the
Connor.
bathroom.
You're first.
I'll be right back.
I'll be super polite because Demon Mama and I have worked on our relationship really hard, and I just want to maintain that. Okay, so my frustration with this is I don't give a fuck about the melanin in somebody's fucking skin, as I mentioned previously. There's some inside every Vietnamese person is an American. I think that's true. We are a civic nationalist country. I don't give a fuck if you're a Black American or Hispanic American or an Asian American or a gay American or a trans American. You're fucking American. All right. So we're there so far. My problem, oftentimes, the very first time you triggered me was when we were talking about terrorism, and I think no-go zones and crime is another thing in which you trigger me, and it's because like the reason why we don't have a whole bunch of really nefarious shit happening here all the time is because we have a really aggressive security structure, law enforcement. Yes. Federalized law enforcement. I'm not done. I listen to y'all motherfuckers talk for like 15 minutes at a time. I'm not done yet.
Wait, Connor. I'm not interrupting you. I'm not interrupting you to say something bad. I meant to do this before, but I accidentally pressed the wrong button. Let me just hear me out. I agree with you. I don't think that I believe you when you say that you don't care about the color of people's skins, but you make very different arguments than the arguments that I've heard here. And I think that I don't think that we should derail onto discussions of no-go zones, because that is a completely and utter different discussion about the actual reality of such conspiracy theories, and they are.
And I have an olive branch right here, because if instead of getting hung up on descriptive issues where we probably don't agree, or we could get into heated contentions and go off into weird tangents and shit, you said something incredibly important that I think we can agree on, which is basically like kicking people out of this country is not a holistic solution. Oftentimes, these people are fleeing their countries of origin for a reason, and sometimes that reason is us. Sometimes we're a destabilizing force. Sometimes we pay the CIA to fuck up their country. Sometimes we're fucking up their oil shit. Sometimes we're fucking up their economies. Sometimes we even invade them. If you look at the Middle East and North Africa destabilization of the past 20 years, that was a part of the global war on terror. So I think that as a part of a holistic solution, and I'll leave it here, a part of a holistic solution that we agree on, that way we don't scream at each other, is basically like some of these countries, rather than just saying, hey, all of Iraq, we fucked up your country, move to the United States. All of Afghanistan, move to America, we fucked up your country. All of Mexico, we kind of fucked you over a little bit. Come on up. We need to also help stabilize these societies so we don't have insane amounts of people coming to this country all at one time. And that's about as charitable as I can be without being triggered. So I'll leave it there. Love you, Turk. Thank you kindly.
Yeah, okay. I just want to say how I'm just so offended by Demon Mama. She called undocumented migrants illegal immigrants.
Oh, here we go. Another substanceless statement. Here we go.
It's a personal.
Are you being real right now? Is this real? No. I thought we were here to have like a serious conversation.
Let's stop for a second and let Turk talk. He's not an interrupter. He is very orderly. Let's listen to him.
So I really like where Hans's head's at about the whole let him in, get him legal, get him paying taxes. And you said a livable wage, which I believe would be like $25 an hour, right?
Like I was just talking about, make sure that they have the same work protection, same wage protections as like other American workers. We can talk about raising wages for American workers, which I'm totally in favor of, like in terms of raising the minimum wage. But like, yeah, they would get the same benefits and worker protections that like regular workers would get.
Okay, so I'll assume that means for a minimum wage that's higher than what it is now. Well,
I would hope so.
With your logic there, if you go and look at the effective tax rates, people making $50,000 to $100,000 have an effective tax rate of 8%, and that's working full time at whatever job they're getting at $25 an hour. So they're likely getting a negative income tax or negative effective tax. So we're actually giving them more money to come here and be legalized and all that stuff. So it's like, I do appreciate that you're trying to come up with a solution to fund this. But
I'm sorry, can you restate this idea? I'm having a hard time following.
What are you not following?
So the idea is if we give them worker protections and increase the rate of pay, that I'm sorry, I missed the conclusion of that.
Because you interrupted and I was completing it. So if we legalize them and they get paid an hourly wage of $25 an hour, and if you calculate that for a full-time worker, you get right at around $50,000. Of course,
sounds good.
Of course, they're probably not going to be full-time, but we'll say it's that. At $50,000 a year, your effective tax rate is 8%. And if you're going lower than that, you're starting to get into negative effective tax, which means we're giving you more money. So if you're trying to fund this exercise of getting more immigrants to be documented and funding in additional like courts and stuff, that solution is not feasible from a pure money, dollars and cents.
So I just want to
like
real quick. I'm sorry,
Supreme.
I haven't said a whole lot on this topic, but I just want to make it clear. It seems like you're making the argument that if they are paid more, they'll be taxed more than the difference.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. If they were to be taxed at the rate a legal citizen would happen, their effective tax rate would be, we would be giving them money to be here. So it doesn't pay for the program.
The other question, okay, like, one second. So right now they're here, and they don't pay a lot of taxes, and they get like dog shit wages, right? They're only paying like in sales tax and like stuff that like when they're skirting the system, right? Like, and I'm using like the skirting the system language to appeal to you conservatives. And if we pay them more money, they will pay less money to the government. I mean, like, their corporations, like, their profit margins might be smaller, but like that person would still pay. You're telling me that someone who like the average immigrant, like the average illegal immigrant, like they did like a study on this, it was like 13% in like their wages and taxes. You're telling me that like an illegal immigrant making like $5 a day like is somehow like paying more in taxes right now than like what they would be paying if we gave them like a $15 or like what you said, like a forbid, like a $25 minimum wage. I don't know what the point is. You're trying to say like the poor people don't pay taxes, but like are you saying
like there's two things wrong with this. Let me just point out two things. First of all, when you're talking about effective tax rate, you're talking after refunds which are collected as tax. Like, you literally don't even understand the structures you're explaining here. This is why I get so frustrated around the topic of immigration, because it's like the actual math has already been settled. Like, Connor Points was 100% right to tell you righties that you should just stop trying to fight on the matter of the mathematics, because you're just dead wrong. You're wrong in every single way. Also, there are a ton of states that don't have state income taxes that right now are collecting money from illegal immigrants participating in the economy. And then those illegal immigrants cannot actually make claims for benefits. They have to avoid showing up on surveys. They have to fear the police. The police has to do the ICE comes in and comes as a federal force and terrorizes them, and it costs us money. It's ridiculous. The math doesn't add up.
Sounds like you're pro legal immigration.
I'm sorry, what?
Sounds like you're pro legal immigration. You would rather than be here legally and not illegally.
Well, yes. But do you want to know how I believe that we change that? You make them legal. You make them legal by saying, wait a minute, this is completely absurd that we've built our rules this way. These rules were built for a world that no longer exists, and we should have rules that make sense in the modern world. But I mean, again, all of this conversation is like it's like an edifice. It's like a facade, because Connor Points correctly pointed out the math has been settled. We know that it's cheaper. There's 100 other solutions that don't involve mass deportation.
I reject that the math has been settled in every case.
The math has been settled. I'm sorry, but as far as we can tell, the math yes, but but with all due respect, like, I'm sorry, but wait, hold on a second. With all due respect, I don't think that you made a coherent argument about the math. If you really want to go in on that and you want to say it's complicated,
because
that's fine.
there's not a coherent argument.
Hold on. I'm not done.
I don't care if you're not done. I'm not here for your moral grandstanding. I'm trying to communicate conversations that are being had between qualified scholars and professionals in the field. Okay?
Which you are not.
I can't articulate a coherent argument because there's not one yet.
And
They're still working on it. They're trying to study this.
You're literally doing. Wait, hold on a second. I want to point out what's going on here. What you're doing right now is you open this.
I didn't say I.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Apologies.
Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to let Demon Mama here finish, and then I'm going to hand it to Supreme to respond, because there's been accusations labeled at Supreme. Demon Mama finish, Supreme.
Okay, I believe you opened your statement by saying my thoughts are very scrambled on this, and then you said I think that there is some disagreement among experts. From everything that I've seen, that is not the case. I've done a lot. I've been on in this debate a million times. I've done a ton of reading on this particular topic, and there is, from as far as I can tell, there is no meaningful statistic impact, and the statistic impact that does exist is so minor that it can be easily offset with other programs. And I think that you would have to be able to demonstrate a pretty large cost to incoming immigrants in order to make your case, and then also try to claim authority on it. But what you did here is instead you got out in front of yourself.
I can't claim authority on it, and neither can you.
I believe I was supposed to be finishing.
I don't care what you believe. I'm just going to make a point, and you can respond to it.
Damn, buddy.
Please, I said I would give you time after she finishes, okay? Okay.
All right. I'm glad that we have this fellow be able to follow the law and orders. It's a shame. I'm usually the one who breaks them. But okay. So again, I just don't think that if your thoughts are really super scrambled on it, maybe just keep doing your research. Then if you come up with something that proves that there's a overwhelming cost to having immigrants come in, instead of just sort of vaguely gesturing to the concept of like population logistics, which I recognize is a thing, and we know how to deal with that. We have tons of people who work on that all the time, and our current logistics are maintaining horrific, inhumane camps on the border that don't accomplish what they're supposed to do, and also maintaining a massively expensive paramilitary immigration force that also doesn't do what it's supposed to do and fails at it miserably. So again, there's a huge gulf of information that you can't just dismiss by saying, I've read some things that disagree. Okay, congratulations. I can go on Amazon and find 100 different things that would disagree with just about anything. In fact, I could probably go find a couple books of experts talking about how the earth is flat. But, if you're going to make an argument for that, you got to actually put it together. But it's also okay for you just to admit that you don't know what you're talking about on this issue.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about on this issue. The best that I can do is defer to scholars and professionals that work in the field. And they all concede that nobody has a definitive answer on this. It's still being contested to the same. I'm not a populist ideologue like you, okay? I'm not here to dishonestly convey to people that I have answers for which there are not answers for yet.
I'm gonna
okay. So you're basically making
wait. I understand that a lot of the data that's out there generally supports
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, my audio must be fucked tonight because it seems like nobody can hear me. Okay, wait. I don't. Okay, Twitter, please don't cancel me. It might be ableist. Does somebody in here have hearing problems that I don't know about beforehand? Okay, wonderful. So if Turks. Wonderful. Turks, disability from big pow with the gun, right? So, but that doesn't apply to anybody I'm thinking about. So we're going to let Supreme finish, and then we're going to move around. Supreme, please finish.
I don't have much more to say about it other than the fact that the best that I can do, okay, as a streamer on Twitch, which you are, Demon Mama, a streamer on Twitch. You're not an academic working in this field. You're not a scholar.
True.
You can do some research to confirm your biases. I'm actually a little skeptical that you've done any research to negate your biases, which is a major tenet of
very good argument.
This particular field. But
good argument.
I don't know. There's
holy shit.
Jesus Christ, I can't hear him. Fuck. Supreme, please finish.
Don't worry, he's not saying anything of value. Don't worry.
Holy shit, Demon Mama, that's like a 5-minute timeout. I'm sorry. Fuck off. Okay, Supreme, please finish.
I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, there's an investment period, especially. I understand that, like, by and large, the general consensus is that, like, especially through legal immigration, the case is made that it has a general upwards trend in like the growth of an economy. But there are a lot of potential outliers in a lot of places, especially when concerning like undocumented immigrants. If there are large swaths of people that flock to, especially like urban areas, which is where people tend to want to immigrate to, it takes time to set up the logistics, and the logistics have to be set up with budgets that are allotted on an annual or biannual basis that have to remain within the state or city budgets. And if you've got a large group of people that pay less by and large in taxes because they don't get, the businesses that are employing them don't have to pay payroll taxes, or they themselves don't pay income tax. The only tax that they end up paying is like property tax because they have to live somewhere. And also moving to these places, like tends to create much higher demand, lower supply of like low income housing. This ends up affecting a lot of people that have to live in that housing that are here, citizens that were born here. There are a lot of complications to this, and there are a lot of potential factors that are highly contingent on region and the specific groups of people coming from which specific countries. And I understand that this opens the door for a lot of hateful arguments. And what Sproticus says is kind of true. Like the refugee stuff that happened in Europe. Now I wouldn't make the argument that it's the people that are causing the refugees themselves that are causing the problems, but there is a lot of friction that's caused by people's prevailing sentiments. You bring in a lot of refugees, and like the people who live there, there's certainly been a huge swing in right extremism and like xenophobic attitudes and stuff, and this creates problems as well. This is not a thing that we can really address with policy, right? And so this is a thing where I would defer to the experts. I would defer to visa officers communicating with population planners and urban developers to try to measure and make sure that any friction like this is mitigated to the extent possible to promote the most growth possible. And there are challenges to this. I have a lot more to say on this issue, but I'm really embarrassed and I'm really, I'm nauseated that we spent so much time with these like silly bickering back and forth things. It's just such a tired gimmick.
Okay. I can move it back. I can move it to like another part of this discussion if you'd like me to, Dylan. But can I respond to something?
Zand and Sprout, but Sprout did have to respond to an accusation earlier. So we're gonna do Zand and Sprout. So because I know Sprout's gonna respond to Demon Mama, and by then I think Demon Mama should have like fulfilled the 5 minutes. So Xander Hall.
All right, so as far as I know, nobody in here is an academic, somebody who collects and synthesizes data. We have to go off of what the overwhelming consensus of professionals in these fields are to come to the correct conclusions. And it seems like, from all the research I've done, all the research Demon Mama has done, that immigration results in a net benefit in general. And I want to move the discussion on. I'll let Sprouticus respond after this, but I want to try to move us on to another part of this topic. The realization is, I don't know why nobody's brought this up. We're never going to stop illegal immigration. A wall isn't going to stop it. Cracking down harder isn't ever going to stop it. What we can do, though, is cut down on the harms caused by illegal immigration. One of the largest cases of this are when, like, I believe it was Connor Point said earlier, when crimes are committed in some of these communities, they don't get reported because people are afraid of being deported, So I think a huge part of this is, so long as illegal immigration is illegal, it's going to keep happening and we're never going to stop it. If we want to stop illegal immigration from happening, make it legal, make it so these people aren't afraid to go to the police, to snitch on crime cartels like MS-13, other organized crime groups, and give these people what they need in order to help be part of society. They pay taxes in some forms now. We've obviously, I went over this earlier, sales tax in states where we don't have state income tax. You've got gas tax, property tax, I believe schools as well. I think, I'm not sure how that works, but there's a bunch of different ways that they pay taxes. They don't get benefits from it. They help the economy. They commit less crime. And even if that's not the case, since a reporting error, we can solve that. I think that the discussion's getting way derailed into an argument as to whether or not the academics agree on whether or not illegal immigration is good or bad, when it seems like it's already been agreed upon by most academics.
So the problem is that just simply attributing this to immigrants or whatever is kind of a fallacious framing, I think, based on my cursory understanding of the topic. You know what I mean? Like that this is one of the major contentions that's being had in the academic sphere. Simply saying immigration and talking about it in such general terms kind of does a disservice to the complex nature of a very broad topic with a lot of very difficult to track elements.
So generally, when I talk about the harms being caused by immigration, when I use the term immigration, I'm talking about all sorts of, or illegal immigration, all sorts of illegal entry into the country. We can use MS-13 as an example. MS-13 is very powerful. Similar criminal gangs like this are very powerful. They have their ways of getting into the country. Human trafficking happens. There's no way to really prevent it in the way that conservatives usually advocate for, at least not to an effective degree. MS-13 has submarines. They have people they bribe or threaten to get into the country. They have their ways of exporting drugs and people here for human trafficking. If you want to make these, or if you want to shut these organizations down, making it so that people who want to snitch aren't going to get deported and they aren't afraid of that is a very good way to handle that.
To be clear, I think deportation is just off the table. It would be silly. I mean, our agriculture industry would just buckle. Like, I think 50 to 75% of our farming industry is employed by, is comprised of Mexicans, specifically undocumented Mexican immigrants. And the thing is, farmers, when they try to hire citizens, when they try to hire American, native born, they don't stick around. We rely on this strange institution of people having to flee their countries and choosing work that most people don't want to choose. Most people don't want to be graders or most people don't want to harvest crops. It's not fulfilling work. There's not really a lot of headroom. It's like this weird limbo. And this is the sort of thing that's complex and difficult, and there aren't really solid conclusions to this.
How cool would it be? How cool would it be if those workers, instead of being paid under the table and non-taxable income due to their status, were able to pay taxes, income tax, like everybody else does? Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, it would, but then farmers would also be less incentivized to hire them, and it would create more it would create more demand for people that are not undocumented immigrants to work there, and then
why is that?
It's rough.
Imagine paying
brief response to like something Supreme just said. Can I just
like a 10-second brief, but then we gotta look at wrapping this up, or we're not gonna have enough time for the last topic. And I just want to make sure Sprout got a time to respond to the thing earlier.
Yeah, they have to hire someone. Why?
Supreme, all I would say is that even if like you raise the wages of them to like to be competitive with like domestic workers, I'd say that's a net benefit in terms of like the workers that actually get work. They have like adequate wages and worker protections. I'm totally fine making that trade-off.
I'm sorry. Can you one more time?
So what I said was you made a statement about like how like if you raise the wages of like the immigrant workers, then like they're like there's less incentive to hire them, like there's more like potential for like to hire domestic workers. I don't particularly care whether they're hiring domestic or foreign workers in this. I just want to make sure that the workers who are working, who are like earning a wage, are protected by labor protections, and I'm okay making that trade-off if it means like if they start self-selecting for more like domestic workers for like whatever reason. That's totally fine with me. And then
that's noble, but there's also like an elephant in the room, which is that part of the incentive for undocumented workers to work in agriculture is because we sort of look the other way. INS looks the other way to allow them to perform that labor because our agriculture industry relies on this, you know?
I understand, but like I'm not comfortable like with a permanent underclass. I want to try and fix that at some point. If that means food's more expensive, that means like we need more. Like,
I'm with you.
Based, hell yeah, man. Let's go. Based in policy, Phil.
Okay, we're now gonna throw it over.
Real quick.
Okay, I don't know.
I just wanted to say something to Supreme.
Okay, say something to Supreme, but we gotta go Sproutica so they can respond to you. Okay, Demon, by the way, the echo is from you.
It is? How is that?
100%. I've been like trying to figure it out for like 30 minutes, and all signs point to Demon Mama. I fucking LA.
Very weird. I'll see what I can do to fix it. I'll see what I can do to fix it.
Someone in Dylan's chat asked if I'm old enough to smoke.
Okay, that's very strange. I apologize about that. I'll try and solve it. But what I was going to say is earlier on in this conversation, there's just, I don't know, I feel like Supreme is just showing that like he's out of his depth on this thing. Because earlier, one of the main points that Supreme brought up about immigration being a problem was that supposedly immigrants largely flow to like urban areas. But you're also at the same time talking about how most immigrants work as farm labor or slaughterhouse labor, which is not in urban areas. So you just don't know what you're talking about. And I feel like you should just own that.
Listen, these are silly dunks, and I can refute them very easily. First off, I never made the argument that immigration was a problem. I never once like took that stance. Okay, that's not my position at all. That immigration is a problem, and you're doing the thing that I mentioned earlier, which is conflating immigration with undocumented immigration. And guess what? Like to comprise the majority of agricultural labor, all you need is like, I don't know, 2% the population of LA. It's a small population in comparison to the people that move to like big cities. City populations are large. Flyover states populations are very, very small. They're not very population dense. Both of these things can be true.
Yeah. Bad faith mama strikes again. These messages
questions
are wild.
Okay. Sprouticus, you wanted to respond to Demon Mama. And then we're going to ending statements.
Yes. So I'd like the entire panel to hop in my DeLorean. Okay. I'm gonna start it up. We're gonna get to 88 miles an hour, and we're gonna go all the way back in time to when I was called a racist by Demon Mama. Okay. So we're hopping in DeLorean. I got to 88, and we're back. Okay. So the complete asinine statement that I'm a racist and I don't like Mexicans because I was talking about MS-13. MS-13 is majorly ran out of Mexico right now. So, regardless of where it was founded, it could have been founded in China or Australia or Great Britain. I don't give a shit where it was founded, okay? I don't care about the color of their skin. What I care about is they're coming, murdering, raping, stealing, right? That these are things that MS-13 does. Oh, yeah. Are you seriously? Oh, you are so fucking bad faith. It's not even a... Jeez. You're going to sit there and go like... You're going to sit there and go like this, like you're scared of murder and rape. That is asinine. It's a completely bad faith, which is how you've been the entire panel. You've been extremely bad faith the entire panel, calling me a racist. The only thing that you have is sitting here calling me a racist. So yeah, no, I'm responding back to what was said. Whoever's saying, do you have an argument? So I'm responding back to what Supreme. Seriously, I'm responding back to being called a racist. Can you drop it, please? Thank you.
Are you talking to me?
I don't know who's saying you have an argument.
It wasn't
Supreme.
It wasn't Supreme.
Okay, well, I don't know who it was. It looked like it was Supreme. I apologize. Demon Mama. Oh, fuck. Okay, anyways. The only thing you're calling me a racist is because you ran out of good points. That's what the left does. When they run out of points against you, when they run out of things they can say, they turn to the race card, they turn to name calling. This happens again and again and again, and you see it from the left. They turn to name calling when they can't come up with anything else smart to say that would go against what you're saying. So I find it extremely offensive, one, that you call me a racist, and two, it took me this long to be able to respond to it.
You want me to respond to that? Because I can add something to that. So let me just clarify. First of all, I didn't technically call you a racist, though I think it probably fits with your rhetoric about the wall.
You said he hates Mexicans.
I said you don't like.
He should admit it.
It really does seem like you don't like Mexicans.
All right. Well, he's friends with me. I'm Mexican, so
sure, that's great. Sure, that's very nice. But that's very nice for you to be friends. I'm glad you're friends. What I just wanted to make a small correction, which is that unlike you, I didn't run out of arguments. I had a ton of arguments, and then I also pointed out that you're probably a racist and that your argument is very, very racist. Fixating on gangs and rapists coming in over the border is pretty quintessentially the racist rhetoric we've heard for the last 4 years, and all of us know it. Like, you can't trick people anymore. Like, we know.
In
addition to that, hold on, I'm not done yet.
Stop. Wait. Allow what?
Someone to call me a racist, because if someone's gonna sit here and call me a racist all night, I'm gone. And just like if someone's gonna misgender somebody else, you wouldn't allow it.
Wait.
Misgender me. Do it.
Wait, no, pause it. Pause this. I do not think that an accusation of racism, sexism, bigotry, classism, because of somebody's political opinions, is the same as misgendering somebody based upon immutable characteristics. For example, if I said, hey, Sprout, you're stupid, it'd be a lot different than, hey, Sprout, if you had some, let's say you had a mental disability, and I called you the R slur, right? That is completely different than that. Now, the thing is, Sprouticus, right now, for you, as a right-winger, having the crazy left to just go, racist, you're racist, that's good optics, man. Why? You can just be there and look, see, immediately when you care about dealing with gang violence, immediately when you care about immigration, they call you racist. You can just play off that. I am not gonna come in and like save you. What do you want me to do?
I'm asking you what you allow, because it seems.
Well, if you want to call her a racist, you can call her a racist.
I was just asking what you'd allow. So
like, you can call her a racist if you want to. You're allowed to call her a racist.
Well, I don't think she's racist.
You want to call me?
I'd like to ask a question.
I never called us.
No. We're not asking questions because we're wrapping this topic up, and I think the well's been poisoned enough that there's not much more we can do here. So we're gonna do closing statements, but they're gonna be super short, like 30 seconds. We're gonna start with American Nacho.
Yeah. So I don't know what the difference is between Sprout pointing out that gangs do this, and then whenever like we propose like, hey, like a wall could be a part of a solution, that like, oh well, that gangs are like running, smuggling people over, and that like gangs have so much control over this. It's like it's okay to use that in your argument, but not in the reverse. So I find that kind of strange. Again, like I just like to focus on the fact that like, Supreme is happened to be more center on this than even I thought. So I thought that was pretty based. I like the idea of acknowledging that both sides
God, Dylan's chat fucking hates Demon Mama. Holy shit. It's like I'm watching Destiny's chat. probably am in a way.
We want people to be here that want to be here, because we have people in this country who don't want to be here, who think that that believe that this country is failed and gone and like it's past the point of no return. There's people, and even if they don't believe that, there's people that don't want to participate in society. They don't want to pay their taxes. They even though they are a legal citizen here, they still operate under the table. They don't pay taxes, et cetera, et cetera. So we want legal immigrants to be here. We want them to have a pathway to citizenship. So if anything, we can walk and chew gum at the same time, right? We can focus on getting people out of the country who don't deserve to be here, those who have criminal backgrounds, et cetera, while focusing on maybe finding a pathway to citizenship for those who have families here, who we know for sure have an incentive to work and provide and pay taxes and be a part of the system. So that's really my position on that. Pro legal immigration. Thumbs down for illegal immigration.
That was the longest 30 seconds I've ever
sorry.
seen in my life. So we're gonna go 30 seconds going forward. I'm gonna have to count now. So we're gonna send it to Connor.
Oh God, you know I'm not gonna be 30 seconds.
Yeah, you are.
All right, logistics. All right, well then I'll just make one point then. Logistics is incredibly complicated. I worked in logistics in the military. The United States military is one of the best logistical organizations on the planet. I was almost killed because of logistical considerations. Literally, we didn't have water when we needed it. And I was in an environment in which I needed it. So no, these things are not solved, and even the best people in the world can fuck it up really bad. I have like 5 other points, but I'm out of time. So love ya.
Okay. So now we're gonna throw it over to Demon Mama.
Hell yeah. Well, I think I laid out my case pretty well. You know, I was able to bring a lot of pretty much uncontested points, and then I also added the fact that, yeah, it does sound like that. The rhetoric that's used does sound like you just don't like Mexican people and that you want to stigmatize them as rapists and murderers, just like Trump did. The same shit we've seen. So, I don't know. Judge for yourselves. If y'all think that my arguments don't stand up on their own, I'd love to hear an argument against it instead of just whining.
Okay. Next is going to be Hans.
Let it be known, I have not called Sprout racist throughout this entire night, which ipso facto means I have made nothing but good points. And because I will never call him a racist tonight, means I will never stop making good points, and no one can stop me! Ah! Sorry. I'm gonna go cook some more. I need to go heat up some chicken and rice. I'm getting really hungry. I only ate like a pound of it when I got home from the gym. I'll be right back.
Okay, that was his ending statement. We're gonna now throw it over to. I'm gonna let Sprouticus go last, since somebody might make a comment towards him again. I'll throw it over to Supreme.
I just really want to say that I'm fucking ecstatic that this topic never turned into a dumbass culture war debate. That's all, because I think we can all agree that diversity and culture as it exists in America is a blessing. Is like honestly one of the things I love most about this country.
Wonderful. Next, we're going to go over to Turk.
Yeah, so I thought Hans and I were having a good discussion about the topic because we both agree that we need to increase our how we're handling the situation from an executive branch. I had disagreements with how he's going to fund it, but unfortunately, Demon Mama went on one of her tirades, and we were not able to go ahead and continue the conversation, which is kind of like why we're actually here. So I'm really disappointed that we couldn't continue the talk, and yeah.
Okay. Next is Xander Hall.
Yeah, I feel like I got to make all of my points. There were some points where I wanted to talk a little bit more in there, but I got to say what I needed to say towards the end, so I'm pretty happy. Overall, yeah, I think this is an argument that unfortunately stems from a disagreement about basic facts and statistics. We can look at the studies and we can look at the data as it's out now and see pretty obviously what the solution is to these problems, and I think I did a good job of wording all of that, and I'm happy.
Okay, and lastly, Sprouticus.
So I think I made my thoughts pretty clear in the first half of this debate. So is that illegal immigrants should not be here. They should be forced to go through the legal system in which everyone else has to go through. They shouldn't be able to cut in line. This is just playing on equal ground. So they should have to go back to their country and then try to get back in the United States legally if that's what they want to do. You don't get to cut in line just because you think you're more important than everybody else.
Okay. So the last two topics we have is Insurrection Commission and the ocean is on fire. What is the one that you all prefer, with these being the last two?
Fire.
Fire.
Hell portal.
Fire. It's getting hot in here, and I've already taken off my clothes.
We're gonna do it with the hell portal. Okay. Recently, the ocean caught on fire. I mean that quite literally. A portal to hell opened up due to a infrastructure failure in the ocean, where oil and natural gas started leaking out, caught flame, and it's made a lot of people discuss a lot of topics. The first off, regulations on said companies that had control over this. And, of course, the topic of climate change was right around the corner as well. And so, I guess the question to everybody is, what is this literal portal to hell make you all think on these two topics? And, of course, you can use this as a connecting point to the general conversation. Whoever wants to go first, raise your hand. I'll throw it to you. Demon Mama.
Sure, I just want to apologize in advance. The hell portal was an accident. I left open the back door. It's a lot of fire got out. Really sorry about that. We'll make sure it doesn't happen again. Very sorry. No, but on a serious note, it's this is I find this topic interesting. Not so much because the ocean. A lot of people said the oceans are on fire. Well, I mean, this specific incident wasn't caused by global warming, but it has become symbolic of the way that we engage with our environment, our willingness to engage in massive industrial products that can have severe, severe negative effects, and that we don't really have a good answer for how to deal with these. A lot of these massive ecological disasters never get fully solved. There are still horrible, horrible repercussions from previous oil spills that have just never been fixed because, well, I mean, it gets lost after there, right? It gets lost into legislation, into lobbying by corporations who have literally suppressed science on this. So I find it interesting. While I don't think that this particular fire really says a whole lot about climate change itself, it does point out a very good symbol of how we got here, of sort of rampant expansion, rampant exploitation of the environment with very little care for what the fallout might be. And keep in mind that spills and fires like this come back to damage the populace that lives nearby. It's a very serious issue that we don't take seriously enough. And that's what I'm interested in getting into here.
Okay. I'm going to throw it over to Connor. Now we're just going in straight lines now. Connor.
Am I allowed to address my outro from the last one, or should I just move on?
This is the last opportunity you have to do it.
Oh, God damn it. I just deleted it. Fuck. All right. So illegal immigration is always going to happen. That's like the same thing with the drug war or murder. Just because something is going to happen doesn't mean you can't disincentivize it. So I really don't like that as an argument. Ideological protection, as I mentioned earlier, I care about civic nationalism. I want that to continue in the country. That's kind of my bar for how many people I'm going to let into the country. Liberal democracy is not genetic. I would like it if people who came here actually believed in the systems of government that we advocate for. I am a civic nationalist, meaning that I think there's certain ideological foundations that have to be believed in. And I know it's the previous topic, but a thought experiment that I would like everybody to engage in is if we had 100 million groypers who are all under threat of being killed, and they needed to come here immediately, would we let them in without any caveats? Would we let them in without any ideological buy-in? Would we let them in without any criminal screening? I very much doubt it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Ocean on fire. Basically, one of the things that I'm going to get into in the general is that this was a nationalized company. So I wanted to point out to the lefties that nationalization does not solve all of the world's problems. Turns out that socialists sometimes do fucked up shit. I know that's weird to think about because all we have to do is move to socialism and kill our landlords and all of the world's problems are going to disappear. But that's probably not true. And then I would like to point out that 99% of the ocean was not on fire that day. Okay. It was 500 square feet max. So I would like to applaud the oil companies of the world for successfully not setting 99.99997% of the world's oceans not on fire that day. So thank you. And I look forward to the general.
Okay. Next is American Nacho.
First of all, damn you, Connor, for stealing my point. Okay, I was going to say the same thing. This was a state-owned oil company, and I question whether or not they would have gotten away with as much as they got away with if they weren't. So they're still in operation, and they still probably will remain to be in operation. They have like a tally of like upwards of like, or on the way to like 300 deaths now.
236.
But to kind of pivot to like on the same point, though, this is a problem with oil, with the environment, as far as focusing so much on like the oil industry, and I would just hope that we could stop being so afraid of like nuclear energy and realize that the environmental situation that we're in will be leading. I mean, if we were to focus so much more on like nuclear energy, I mean, we're going to have freshwater shortages in the future. Okay, so something like a nuclear power plant cooled by seawater could yield a lot more than a coal plant. Okay, without doing the same damage and with providing clean energy. Okay, and investing in this energy will inevitably lead to like further advancements in improvements in the field, as far as like even more recent developments like breakthroughs in fusion technology and more efficient fission reactors and efficiently disposing of waste materials. One of the more recent ones was like I think a company started making batteries out of nuclear waste. So I think that would be the direction that I would like to take that in. Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, next we're going to go over to Hans.
Thank you. Sorry for running back and forth. I left it in the microwave, then I came back to listen to everybody, and then I ran back because I'm white and it's spicy, so I get milk. Mexican government fucked up. We all can agree with that. It's a government failure. I don't particularly care. I think both private and public companies can fuck up. I don't think that's like an issue in terms of the climate crisis. AMLO said he wanted energy independence. I think that's a bad nationalist way of looking at things. I want to have it international energy dependence, so that people can help each other. We can make like energy as like efficiently as possible to make sure that no people don't have to constantly worry about fighting each other, like defending their own resources and like in that regard. So the private market isn't really going to save us on this. We need public investment. We need public infrastructure. We got the meme about 70% of pollution is like created by corporations, but I did some digging. The study I linked in chat for everybody is about 20% of pollution is directly tied to consumption, and then furthermore, between 40 and 60% of pollution is indirectly tied to consumption, whether it's like stuff you eat, the transportation of stuff you eat, the transportation of like the clothes you wear, or like that sort of shit. So what does this mean for us? It means that the infrastructure of like how we consume things and how we produce things is the only thing that really matters in regards to fixing this. I personally would prefer like if you have the time and resources to like, eat cleaner in terms of like I'm completely being a hypocrite because I'm just like devouring this chicken right now. But we should like if you can have resources to like do good things in terms of like your environmental impact, try and do that. But the overarching goal is to make sure that we have public investment to change the infrastructure of our country, of our planet, so that we can actually continue continuing our lifestyles at our current standard of living. I don't want standards of living to go down, which means we have to change the infrastructure so that the production and consumption doesn't keep killing our planet. So I don't think the private market is up to the task of this. A lot of this technology is going to take numerous amounts of money and people, and it's going to be failures. It's not going to be market viable immediately. So end state, I want an entrepreneurial government in the United States. I want entrepreneurial governments across the world investing in infrastructure that the private market cannot currently do, so that hopefully we can dramatically reshape and change our infrastructure to meet our needs without lowering the living standards of every person who currently enjoys a first world standard of living. Sorry for monologuing so much, and thank you for the conservatives. Please no one say that climate change isn't real, because like we have a really cool conversation we can talk about in terms of infrastructure and stuff, and it'd be really fucking stupid if we had to like mulled about like whether climate change is real or not. Please don't make me do that conversation tonight.
The climate is flat.
Fuck.
Okay, next we're gonna throw it over to Sprouticus.
All right. Damn it, counterpoints and nacho. Like, I don't know if you guys like grabbed my notebook before and just like stole my points for this topic, but yes, this was a state-ran company, which only proves, it's one of many examples that when the state comes in and takes over a private industry, they fuck it up. They do so hard. So hard. Counterpoints knows exactly what I'm talking about. Sitting there laughing, you know exactly what I'm referring to. But yeah, I'm 100% with Nacho on this. We need to move to nuclear energy. It's the cleanest, most efficient energy we have that's available to us. Even in the accidents that have happened in nuclear energy, there's been little to no casualties due to those accidents. Or at least recent accidents. So we've improved our technology a lot. I think that that's going to be our best move going forward. To get out of oil. Oil is dirty anyways, so let's get out of oil. Let's go to nuclear. It is definitely one of those things that we just have we have to make that change. And there's been a fear mongering campaign among the media, among other people, that nuclear is dangerous. It's not as dangerous as they make it out to be. It can be done correctly. It can be done very safely with very, very little waste. So nuclear energy is definitely the way we need to move forward.
Okay, next we're going to throw it over to Supreme.
Oh man, this may be my hottest take ever. But listen, I'm a big fan of democracy.
Hotter than the portal to hell. Sorry. Okay,
hotter than the portal to hell. I'm a big fan of democracy. Okay, democracy is really based. But if there's one arena I can sympathize with the idea of like an authoritarian technocracy, it's in the realm of climate change. I really just wish we would take the U.S. military and fucking, seize the UN and just be like, hey, listen, we just got to listen to these climate scientists and let them enact whatever reforms we need to fucking keep our species alive. I don't know. I don't see a way out other than that. We just can't stop consuming. Human beings, we have a tendency to just pursue short-term satisfaction and just completely overlook the long-term concerns. I think we're going to die. We're going to die. I don't know. That's me.
Okay, next we're going to throw it over to Turk.
Yeah, so not to complete Hans's bingo card, I want to say that no, this is is Mexico a first world country or second or third? I don't know the classifications.
Counts as first world.
But Mexico is trying to become is trying to benefit their own citizens by producing a natural resource that they can have access to in order to jumpstart their own economy. And I'm really glad, I asked the chat earlier today. So like, hey, is there a video or something to look at so we can all be on the same page? Because in that video, it goes and states that, Mexico's trying to improve their state of things. And yeah, they messed up and that's what happens. But there's a lot of other countries out there, China, India, Argentina, plenty of other developing countries that are trying to increase their solidity in order to boost their economies. So it's like, how are we going to tell those countries, no, you can't do that because your energy consumption is not clean? How do we pivot to this new world order of energy delivery like that?
Okay, next we're going to throw it over to Sanderhall.
Thank you. I want to start by saying, actually, you're all right, Demon Mama. It actually wasn't you that caused the hell portal. I had way too much Taco Bell about a week ago, and it was a rough time, okay? Went through the pipes, burned through, it happens, you know how it is. But I want to, give a little bit of information for people who are watching that may not know exactly what we're talking about, a few of the details. The pipeline that bursted, it was owned by Pemex, which is a state-run oil company by Mexico. It's the third, it contributes about a third of Mexico's tax revenue. It's the most indebted oil company in the world. There's been a lot of accidents. I think like 236 people have died. That's the long and short of it. The oil burned for about 5 hours. We still don't know what natural gas it was that leaked out. It was probably crude. With that said, I don't think this is a discussion about socialism or state companies being worse than privately owned companies. I don't know if that's where we want to go with this discussion. I think that's pretty irrelevant to the entire discussion. What I want to talk about, as we've dipped into here, I think nuclear power is a very good alternative to natural gas burning. I think everyone here seems to agree with that. We can also supplement this with renewable energy. I mean, I live in Palm Springs in the middle of the desert. Everybody out here has solar panels. There's an entire desert full of windmills out here. But yeah, other than dealing with issues such as where we store nuclear waste, I think nuclear is the next step, and we need to embrace that.
Wonderful. the panel is open to everybody in the room.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. First of all, windmills, real quick, pollute just as much as a lot of these other things. It's a big misconception. They have the not only the chemicals that they need to clean them, like the ones that the chemicals they needed to like defrost, etc., are a lot of oil-based chemicals that end up polluting just as much as anything else. I mean, well, maybe not just as much, but they pollute just as equally as far as like oil. I still would argue that nuclear is the way to go. And I think to Turk's point, to counter what you said, lots of up and coming countries, they basically hinted at that maybe they need to use oil as a means of like energy. Or I would suggest that maybe we be the champions of like clean nuclear energy in developing nations.
I guess
we
try to like
broker some deals
today.
and regulate that in other countries.
Exactly.
Whoa. Okay, that was a lot of people at once. I think Connor said something first, so I think Connor.
Yay! I get to go first. I'm gonna give you guys lots of ammunition. So I think the best thing, all these goals that I have that I'm about to outline right now could be, I'll talk very quickly, can be accomplished without socialism. So Xander Hall, if you want to stay away from it, I'm perfectly comfortable doing it. I think it can be accomplished with a public-private partnership. So
That's
nukes,
fine.
we can use fission energy now, but we should use fusion as soon as it comes online. And basically, we need to significantly up our percentage of use. We need quick turn gas turbine engines. Natural gas is about 70% less polluting than coal. And you basically need that for peak energy usage times. When everybody gets home at 5 p.m. and they're jerking off and watching Netflix and all that kind of stuff, you need the ability to ramp up production. You just can't have flat nukes the entire time. Then we can also do renewables as a supplement, basically to help out with all that kind of stuff. Also, I want to point out that filthy fucking capitalists are not totally opposed to this. Ford, the company that is probably most famous for being one of the most capitalist advocates in the world, has now come out with a 500 horsepower F-150 that's all electric. The engine compartment is a front trunk. It's only $40,000 a year, or $40,000. I think that's awesome. They also came out with an all-electric Mustang, which I'm pretty sure is like 0 to 60 in like 4 seconds. So it's awesome. This needs to be supplemented with something called carbon capture, basically getting the carbon that we've already emitted out into the world back into basically a solid state, so it's not affecting the environment. Also, lab meat. Hans could eat as much fucking chicken as he wanted to because right now they have shoved needles in the growth hormones of like in the shoulders of animals, pull that out without killing the animal, hit it with like sunlight and sugar, and they've created genetically identical meat for both chicken and cows. They're expecting to get it on the market by 2022. 50%, I want to say it's 50% of greenhouse gas emissions are related to agriculture. So methane from cows in particular is really bad. Also, I know that the honkies are very concerned about white demographic collapse. The solution is not to get more white people on the planet. The solution is to give everybody condoms. Everybody needs to be reducing their overall fucking children, because children are one of the primary contributors to carbon emissions. So if we actually get a like 1 to 2.5 global birth rate or something like that, we can significantly reduce, basically global carbon emissions without any kind of like wars or genocide. One of the things that somebody said was, what is the new world order of energy? I was actually thinking about this because we wouldn't want to export nuclear technology to nefarious regimes such as Iran. But what we could do is we could say, hey, y'all come to the table, you abandon your nuclear weapons program, we'll literally build nuke plants in your country. It will be guarded by the United States military, but we will give you the power, but not the technology. And I think that's something that we could do. And it's something that we need to do with developing nations where we say, hey, we're not just going to wag our finger at you that you're not allowed to use certain technologies. We're actually going to help you use the technologies that are going to save the planet. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. I hope all of you guys have an excellent night.
Do you mind if I respond to something that Counterpoint said?
No, I'm gone now. That was my TED Talk.
Oh, okay.
I just want to throw this out there really quickly because Counterpoints mentioned it. It's not a contention. I agree with everything he said there. Love lab-grown meat. Oh, that sounds good. But the reason why I want to avoid socialism in this topic is because I think if we're going to be discussing solutions to this problem, we need to be talking about pragmatic solutions that we can do under capitalism, because unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what your opinion is, we're not getting socialism in any of our lifetimes. So any solutions we come up with ought to be in our current system that are more achievable.
I don't think anybody
that was
brought it up.
more.
It was okay.
Yeah, but that I want to make a point here because I think the reason why you heard 3 conservatives say it is because oftentimes the solution that lefties advocate for is nationalizing everything. Nationalize social media, nationalize agriculture, nationalize cell phones, nationalize this, nationalize that. So that's why it's an
really
easy
funny
dub.
that you're on a panel with a bunch of lefties, and like I consider myself a pretty extreme lefty, and like I haven't advocated for nationalizing anything. It's very funny. I don't know. It's
Xander
like
Hall, you spoke this debate into existence.
Is socialism done left to leftist?
Wait, okay, wait. That traveled across the room so fast. I had no clue what just the interaction happened. Okay.
It's memes.
So, who is I'm sorry, I was completely
it's
lost.
just this panel. No one
Okay,
can call
so
in.
just raise your hand if you want to talk. D-Mama was first, so I just have to give it to D-Mama.
Thanks. So yeah, there was a couple of things I want to touch on. First of all, this nationalization thing is incredibly silly. It's not even like a good critique of like the tanky types who do say like nationalize everything, because I don't know if you know this, but like Mexico isn't a socialist country. They just happen to have a national oil company. That's like, this is so ridiculous. It's so silly.
Can I make a simple point that you might
I
be
know
able
you
to
were
agree to
joking. I know
really
you were
quickly?
joking. Sure.
Well, let's
Really
let
quickly.
D-Mama finish.
But it's so simple. Does nationalization solve all problems?
You didn't even. Dude, you didn't even.
I feel like this isn't contended.
That's a 5-minute timeout. I'm sorry. You gotta listen to the rules, man. Okay, D-Mama, please continue.
Yeah, I don't know where this idea that first of all, that there's anybody who says nationalization solves anything. I don't think anybody believes that. Like, I certainly don't believe that. Interestingly, though, I wanted to point out a little thing with something that Supreme said. Supreme said, oh, like, that on this topic that he believes that we should go like full auth and just take over the UN. And I understand there's probably some hyperbole involved there. However, I will say, doesn't that argument kind of grant credence to groups like, I don't know, like Greenpeace and stuff, who've been basically saying like, we are all going to die? I don't know. Maybe people should like, if we're really getting to the point where we're going to start arguing about population control and eugenics in the name of like trying to save the planet so that we can keep consuming at the same rate.
Wait.
I can't
help. What do you think eugenics is?
Eugenics is when you tamper with and control the genetics of a group of people via population control, via selective breeding.
Who made this argument?
Wait, what? Connor Points did. Connor Points did. Were you listening or no?
Connor Points suggested having a national institution of selectively breeding human beings to select for traits.
No, I didn't say that. I
said.
That's
what eugenics
That's what eugenics is.
No, that is not what that is.
That is what eugenics is.
You just said that's what it is. I'm sorry.
Okay, fine. All right,
Wait. If the room wants, I can be the neutral party that goes up and does definition if anybody wants me to.
Yeah, pull up eugenics.
Sure.
Okay, continue. I'll do that while you all continue.
Yeah. What Connor Points advocated for was imposing a worldwide population control methods, which I believe falls well under the purview of eugenics.
It's not.
Okay. Then fine. What is a better term that would work for you there so that you stop
population control?
Wait. Quick question. Okay. Wait. Is Oxford an institution that everyone here respects, or should I use a different one for any other reason? Okay. The study of how to arrange reproduction within a human population to increase the occurrence of heritable characteristics regarded as desirable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Characteristics that are desirable, which wouldn't be population control.
Selectively breeding humans. That's what
selectively breeding humans is eugenics.
It's not just controlling population through contraceptives. It's like controlling the population.
If you don't think eugenics applies here, that's fine. I think that is an incredibly pedantic way of like attempting to off this argument. But sure, if you want me to choose a different word,
I hear the term being used incorrectly all the fucking time on this platform.
That's fine. You can hear that all the time. Very sorry. But I'm glad that you've inserted such a useful diversion.
You learned something. Can you just relax?
No, I mean I just think that I can expand on this, but I don't really think it's necessary. I'd much prefer to actually finish my point. Is that cool?
You can continue. It is your turn.
It's yours.
Appreciate it. So yeah, what I hear is a lot of arguments about population control. I've heard an argument about having sort of an authoritarian imperialistic upsurge to take over the UN and force all other nations to follow the rules that we haven't even implemented in our own country yet, et cetera, et cetera. These seem like very irrational solutions to me. It seems to me like the lesser of two evils in that situation would quite literally be what stuff like PETA and Greenpeace have advocated. I don't think that's really I really don't know if that's what you were aiming for. But if that is, I mean, I would urge people to reconsider the value of essentially eco-authoritarianism, because I don't think that that's going to have the outcomes that people want it to have. I think there's a lot of things that we need to address with regard to climate change. One of those is meat consumption. Meat consumption is out of control in America, and it is backed institutionally. It's not just a matter of people choosing to eat meat. It's that beef is subsidized in America. It is popularized in America. It is supported even by the government. It is supported by massive lobbies. We have to address these problems because, as we have discussed already in this conversation, it is a well-established fact that specifically beef production produces an incredible amount of carbon, puts out an incredible amount of carbon into our atmosphere and damages the climate. So I think that this goes beyond just questions of nationalizing things or whatever. We need to really have a holistic approach to this, and that includes tackling things like meat eating. That includes tackling things like why do we have so much why do we have such a reliance and such a institutional backing to the perpetuation of suburb cities, of car ownership, of individual car ownership. Huge issue here in the States is that all of our cities have been designed with the goal in mind of every individual person or every individual family owning a car, which has literally compounding effects on the environment. In addition to the actual production of the car, it increases fossil fuel consumption. It increases the amount of distance that people are driving because you need to have things like massive parking lots, and it's incredibly wasteful. This is where I think that sometimes I have to disagree a little bit with Hans. I recognize where people are coming from when they say they don't want quality of life to go down, but when people say quality of life, it's really important to understand what you mean. Does quality of life going down mean saying, hey guys, we really need to move away from individual car ownership? There's a ton of people who would argue, what? I can't have my Hummer anymore? That's a decrease to my quality of life. I don't think that we should just base it off of quality of life. We're going to have to some degree, but we should be very critical, in my opinion, on what we categorize as quality of life. Because personally, I think there's a lot of people who believe they have a good quality of life right now because they own an SUV and drive, 4 hours in and out to work every day, and they can listen to their podcasts. But in an alternative system where we had, more densely organized cities, where we had public transportation, or at least mass transit of some form, I think that people would find that their quality of life changes quite a bit. Our lifestyle has become so strange, and as a result, we become locked, not just where consumers can make better decisions or anything like that. We become locked into a never-ending cycle, reinforcing the consumption.
All right. I was directly at it. Can I please respond?
Of course, yes.
Thank you. So, Steve Mama, I agree with you that there are some things that I would say value more highly when I talk about quality of life. When I say quality of life, I'm talking to make sure that people still have access to games, and they still have access to electricity, and they still have access to public transit. Again, when I talk about in terms of say public infrastructure, public investment, obviously that entails also amazing new public transit systems for the entirety of the United States, because otherwise a lot of people will still need cars because we've designed our society to revolve around cars. I'm not saying you have to ban cars. I'm saying you have to make cars so inefficient compared to public transit, and you have to tax the shit out of cars, so that eventually, it's unless you're some rich asshole who wants to flex on everybody, there's no reason for you to be driving a car, because everyone will just be taking all the awesome transit.
Yeah, I mean, I hear where you're coming from, but there's a problem. There's certain issues with this, and again, I don't know if this is intentional, but things like even saying tax the hell out of cars, those are things that offload onto the people who are forced into a position that they have to drive a car in order to keep their living going. And people, by the way, now, people who don't have cars, have which is a lot of people in America, it can literally be an impediment to them even being able to get work, because if you just happen to live too far away from the city and there's no valid transport in, Well, you can't own a car anyway. I think what we need to do is we need to recognize that this is a much bigger issue. This is a global and societal issue that we have to tackle as a society. And that might mean not just charging people for owning cars, but actually saying, hey, we need to right now switch over to, we're going to build up this sort of public infrastructure replacement. And then we're going to say, no, this many cars are not on the road, or this much car production needs to go down. And if it is if it is so, and I would argue that if it is so pressing that we would consider things like global population control of human birth, and that we would consider taking over the UN in order to fix it, I think that we should be more than willing to consider, okay, maybe we need to start banning cars. Maybe we need to start banning types of cars. Maybe we need to start severely punishing car companies and oil companies that are doing this, because otherwise they're going to keep perpetuating the exact systems that people need to survive. And the thing is, humans are going to try to survive no matter what. If it comes down between survival or not having a car, they're going to find a way to get a car, and they're going to keep surviving. So we have to think about that and put that in a larger perspective, because it's completely rational for people to want to do what they need to do to survive.
So I don't know if you know a whole lot about economics, but your whole idea of let's just have the government regulate how many cars we made and significantly decrease it would have a drastic effect on the price of cars. And what you would be doing is you would be forcing people who are in rural areas or who are in areas where they can't get good work to pay a massive amount, which they probably wouldn't be able to pay, for a vehicle to go get work. This is an absolutely asinine take from you that we just have the government say that this car company can make so many cars. I don't think you truly understand supply and demand.
That was to me.
I know a good amount about economics, and let me help Sprout here really quick. All right, buddy. When we talk about like helping public infrastructure, when we talk about like making it so you don't need a car, I understand that rural areas do not have the money and the capacity to build their own public infrastructure networks. The only reason why we have electricity in the South, or like why we had there in the first place, was because during the New Deal, we built it for them, because otherwise it wasn't good enough economic incentive to build electricity there themselves. We can do that again in terms of public infrastructure for rural areas. I'm not saying we should leave rural areas to rot. I'm saying if people want to live in rural areas, I guess you can do that, and we will give you public transit so you don't need a car as much. But for Demon Mama was correct about terms of say incentives, right? I don't want to just tax cars. That's a really shit lib kind of way of looking at the problem. You're punishing consumers in a way that you're not publishing companies. You obviously need to do both. You need to have detriments for people who own cars, but you also need the public incentives to use infrastructure, to use public transit. And then what I would say about quality of life, why it's so important to me as a market socialist and as an avid democracy enjoyer, this is largely for Supreme, is that no democratic platform will win if you run on lowering people's standards of living. I'm really sorry. I know that the Republican Party does it semi-successfully, but if you come out and say, sorry, gang, we're all gonna have to suck it up a little bit, no one gets cars anymore, but we're not gonna it's not gonna go over well. So I understand from a technocratic perspective, if I could hit the do it button and I would smash that bitch no one would believe it. But I can't do it right. But we can't do that right now, and we need the rest of the world on our side for this. And so what that means is we have to win democratic elections, at least in the Western democracies, where democracy is kind of important. And that's why living standards are so important to me in terms of this argument.
So what's your idea? What's your idea for public transit when it comes to bumfuck Egypt, right? You're not going to have an idea when it comes to public transit for bumfuck Egypt, and that person's going to be left with having to pay for a car because now he has no other option but to pay this absorbent amount of price for a car, and you're forcing this person to be poor because he can't afford this car that he desperately needs.
I have a solution, please, for the love of God.
Go, Connor, go, get him, buddy, go nuts.
Connor. Okay, Connor, you can go.
Tag team from the top rope.
Okay,
Connor.
All right. Yay! I get to be a fucking centrist. All right, here's the fucking thing. We don't have to do any of this shit. All right, we don't have to do any of this shit. Fucking basically, carbon capture is a viable technology. They've already done it. And on top of that, you can build it into the externalities of oil producing companies and natural gas companies. You can literally say within the price of you creating natural gas for sale, you have to factor in the price of carbon capture. So you can literally get natural gas and oil into a fucking flat zero fucking thing by basically building in carbon capture into the price of oil and gas. Because if anything we know that capitalism is not good, it's capturing externalities in the unit price. That's number one. Number two, what you can do is you can do commercials with me, with my fucking dad bod, driving a fucking Ford F-150 with a white Monster energy drink saying, hey, you know what's fucking based? Fucking eating lab meat and fucking driving my electric truck from my fucking job in bumfuck Egypt into the city. And that's going to be fucking based. And the reason why it's going to be fucking based is because people are not going to know that they're driving hippie, pussy, no environment destroying fucking technology if you sell it to them right. You can literally create electric fucking cars that look like, do like 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. This is what people don't understand, and then I'll leave it here. This is what you don't understand. There was a hot rodder who was a Silicon Valley nerd, and he loved building hot rods with his dad, and he wanted to build hot rods with his son. And he was literally like emo depressed because he was scared that he wasn't gonna be able to build hot rods with his son. Do you know what he did instead? He fucking took Tesla chassis and slapped them into fucking Mustangs and Camaros and shit. And now he has 1960s and 1970s style muscle cars that do 0 to 60 in fucking 3.5 seconds. So don't make it this like pussy bug eating fucking live in the apartment, you fucking weirdo shit. Make it badass. Make it fun. Holy shit.
You can do both.
I agree heavily with counterpoints in that one. I think that a lot of the left's messaging, particularly the left, I know there's plenty of people on the right that are also in favor of these things, need to make it more palatable to your average, like, you know, I don't want to lose my I'm not putting on the glasses. I only got one hand because I have to hold push to talk. But yeah, I completely agree with that. I think one of the things that's going to be a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people is the idea that we need to get rid of suburbs because they're so bad for the environment. A lot of people don't want to move to cities. I love cities, but a lot of people don't. And that's going to be hard to sell for a lot of people. I don't know how
Why the hell do you live in Palm Springs?
So there's a couple of things I wanted to address. First of all, that there is a little bit of an irony in using the turn of phrase "bumfuck Egypt." When last I checked, I think Egypt actually does have stronger public transit than we do. Yeah, just to sort of just to pull a little Virgin Chad meme here with the Virgin Sprouticus. What? How are they gonna? They're going to buy expensive cars? No, we will actually just build using government investment and community investment public transit for them to use. The funny thing is that rural communities right now, they're not driving into cities. They're driving into their rural community center where their Walmart or wherever their working is.
Are we in the same panel?
Yeah, I don't want to ride a bus.
Yeah,
that shit sucks.
There was still no solution.
Well, I mean, there you have it. You're
There's
super
still
motivated
no solution whatsoever.
So wait,
so essentially what you said is we're going to build public transit.
You interrupted me.
Okay. So,
I don't know. They're having a hard time.
You too.
I mean, she interrupted me a whole lot, so I mean, it's just really interesting that I can't interrupt.
I do my best to stop everyone from interrupting, but
more conservative censorship.
So
I know, right?
Dear Mama,
Free Sprout.
Dear Mama?
Yes. Okay. Sorry, I was waiting for everyone to finish. So yeah. The response to, hey, the planet is going to become uninhabitable for the vast majority of people, and the response is, I don't want to ride a bus. I mean, that's very categorically sort of hyper fragile, and also just unhinged. Like the idea that you would acknowledge that, hey, the planet is like literally tipping on the edge of irrevocable climate change, but then you don't want to consider riding a bus. That is actually a problem. Yeah, that is.
It is a problem, but it's the problem that we've had. My generation grew up with Captain Planet.
Well,
my goodness.
Okay, so
it goes on like 10-minute dialogues. Expect to be interrupted.
We've known this for 4 decades, and we just can't stop.
Okay,
Captain Planet's right here.
Holy shit, man! I want to make this show weekly. Demon Mama, please finish, and then we'll start with Supreme, and we'll go around. Supreme, Sprouticus, go around.
Sure. I don't entirely disagree with Counterpoint's idea of making these things sexy. I totally agree with that. I think there are groups of people. I mean, I've had a huge like vegan debate thing that I've been doing, because I think the vegans do a very bad job in general representing their opinions in a way that makes sense to people who are struggling with like food insecurity or who may not know how to cook. I actually have like a whole proposition for how we encourage veganism on a sort of guerrilla level that doesn't involve any government involvement whatsoever, but rather just motivated communities of vegans who actually care about it could actually, I believe, could genuinely change the way that we eat in America. And I could talk about that another time. However, I do think we need to make it sexier, but there are certain lines where we just have to acknowledge that like some things that we do are really bad. Suburbs are super bad. They're super, super bad for the environment. They not only fuck up the way that our cities run, they make they make us have to sit in cars all the time. They make the people who can't afford cars have to sit on buses for hours and hours of every single day. And they're really super bad to live in. Like most people who live in suburbs don't know their fucking neighbors. They're not connected. They're really actually not good. They're not very good communities to live in. So that's an example. Another one is personal car ownership. I do think that it would be great if we could get to like 100% electric cars. And we'll see if that's possible. But if it's not possible, can we not acknowledge that like maybe it wouldn't be so bad if we took buses that were like clean, efficient, comfortable, if we actually invested in those buses, that maybe riding a bus wouldn't be so bad. Right now, riding a bus is bad is because there's no funding for any of these public transit. Public transit in America is made of messy routes that are understaffed, that are old buses that suck. If you put some money into it, the buses get nice. Maybe you have, I don't know, free Wi-Fi on all the buses, all kinds of cool stuff. There's a million really cool things that we can do, but there's this, but what we've seen on this panel so far is, I don't want to ride a bus. I don't want to.
Who are you talking about? Wait. Who are you arguing with? Because I've been trying to figure out this for like the past like 15 minutes. You've been going on these long tirades against who? Like who's saying this?
And she's supposed to be finishing anyway.
No, please let her answer. Like who are you talking to?
Wait. Okay, one at a time. Nacho asked you a question. You can respond to that question. Then we're going to Supreme. Then we're going to Sprouticus. Then we're going to Connor. Then we're gonna probably wrap this up.
Sure. I was super clear. Okay. I was super clear about who I was talking to, which was Sprouticus whining about not wanting to ride a bus. So, yep, that was pretty clear. And then also, it's funny because I've remained very quiet, and I have actually been taking notes to lump my points together, but that's still not good enough for all of you whiners. So again, when you have an argument, please get back to me. Otherwise, keep whining, because it's very entertaining to me.
It just feels like 8 of us are in one panel and you're in your own panel arguing with some straw man. I don't know what the fuck is going on right now. Sorry.
Okay, so Sprouticus, I'm sorry I was saying Supreme first, but if she was talking towards you, then yeah, you respond, then Supreme, then we'll go around.
Okay, I appreciate it. The idea that they're just going to build public transit for BFE is absolutely hilarious to me. They're going to have a bus go to each property because remember, these people can't have cars, so they can't get to a center point where they get to a bus. So these bus routes are going to go to every single property in your state, which is going to be a huge route. So I hope they don't have to be anywhere on time, such as get to work. I really hope that doesn't happen. It's absolutely asinine, and there's not a good solution. The solution wasn't given. The solution that was given was we're gonna build it. Okay, well, what are you gonna build? They can't answer that question because it's not feasible. They know it's not feasible. That's why they can't answer that question. That question was asked probably 10 to 15 minutes ago, still yet to be answered. So I'm really looking forward to see what this answer is to completely get rid of cars. People who live like 50, 60 miles away from their job. So I just ride the bus, because that is definitely feasible when that bus is going to go all the way around the state and then have to come back to the city. Hopefully you just sleep on the bus and live on the bus.
Okay.
Spartacus,
can I respond to that?
Never say I didn't say what to build.
Okay. D-Mama gives respond to that, yeah.
Cool, thank you. So first of all, I don't know if you've ever lived. Maybe you haven't lived in rural America. I don't know. But did you know that they have school buses in rural America? Wow. Oh my God.
Do the school buses go all the way to the cities? Do the school buses go all the way to the cities?
Wait,
do the school buses go all the way to the cities?
School buses are for children who can't own cars. Like the moment I could drive when I was in high school, I stopped taking the bus. Especially for like most of America where it gets so cold that it's like deadly.
Damn,
and like waiting for the bus is extremely uncomfortable.
Hey, I'm very very glad that you were able to have that enjoyable experience. That's very nice for you. But we're talking. I thought that you were the one who
Do you
didn't
think
you
I'm just talking about me as an individual?
Supreme.
Or
I'm
do you think
sorry. I'm
making
sorry.
a
It's my turn to
description
talk
for-
now, buddy. I know you're very angry.
No,
but
you're not going to get to this. You're interrupting
no,
the
hold on a
people.
second.
No,
I'm
I'm
gonna
going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt the people. That's not going to happen.
No. Okay. So this is what we're gonna do. For the rest of this, I'm gonna have a timer, and everybody's response to everything is gonna be timed. And so if you go over it at all, I'm just gonna have to make you stop. And that's how we're gonna do everything until the end of the panel now. Okay? So Demon Mama, you've got 30 seconds. Go.
Thank you. At the beginning of this argument, Supreme argued that he thinks that we're so doomed that he would be willing to invade the UN to impose American energy standards across the entire world, but he's not willing to ride a bus. That just goes to show you that this is a fundamentally unserious argument, that he doesn't actually know what he's talking about on this issue as well as the last one. And with regard to Sprouticus, you don't know what you're talking about either. In rural areas, if you've ever lived or worked in a rural area, there are still population centers where most of the jobs are, and it's very easy to implement bus routes there. And guess what? If you need to have some sort of special example, you can build one. There could be a single bus route that carries a bunch of people out to the factory. Bam, solved.
Okay, next is gonna be Supreme.
I just want to make it clear that my opening statement was a joke. I think it's probably going to be the case that we chose our own demise, chose the end of organized human existence as we know it, just out of preference. I think that's just what's going to happen. And there's a lot more problems than just carbon footprint, depletion of water resources, depletion of. I just learned this is a thing, like certain types of silicon that's used for construction that we're running out of. Certain types of soil nutrient density is another one. It seems like we're depleting. We don't even have answers for these things. We're just hoping that we can invent technologies to address these things. And also,
more like reverse.
I want to make it.
Okay. So I said we were doing this 30-second thing, and I'm getting a little frustrated now.
I'm sorry. Did I go over time?
No, Demon Mama tried to talk over you, and so we're gonna stop doing that now.
Talk under me. Sorry, talk under me, right? Okay.
We're going to please finish Supreme. You're given 20 extra seconds now.
I literally think my preferences on how to travel are irrelevant to this conversation, right? I was providing an example that reflects, I think, a greater trend, and especially Middle America. I drive electric personally, so I don't know.
Very nice for you.
Okay.
Real quick, I want to wrap up. If you guys want to know more about climate change stuff on Twitch, check out twitch.tv/touring news and Your Environment Seattle. Those are two channels that I recommend. Those are people that actually devoted a lot of time to understanding these issues.
Yeah, they actually know what they're talking about. Yeah.
Next is going to be Turk.
I think I'm good. I don't want to get interrupted by Demon Mama, so I'll pass.
Sprouticus.
So I want to make things very clear. A bus doesn't go around the whole state, right? So that does not happen. But that's what they're wanting to happen, right? They're like, well, the school buses. Okay, so this one bus is going to go all the way out to BFE, go all the way around BFE, and go back to the city. It's not going to happen. It's not feasible. It's an imaginary dream that they're having, that this eventually will happen, and that it's something that's going to be feasible for the entire state. It's not going to. It's complete and utter badness.
Okay. I'm gonna throw it over to Turk. Now you want to say something?
No, I was gonna pass again, so I didn't get interrupted by Demon Mama again.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw it back to Demon Mama.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. This is incredibly silly. The idea that it's just literally not understanding anything about how bus routes work at all. I don't even know how to react to this. First of all, there are huge facilities where tons of people work. In my home state, for example, there was a massive lab, a massive marine biology lab, and every single day they would have a bus that would go from a very easy to reach location, and then they would drive a huge amount of their employees down there. It's very simple to do. But you can have more than one bus, as it turns out. You don't need one bus to drive around the whole state. What are you talking about?
Okay. Next is going to be Connor.
Yay!
We're going to do media share.
Y'all talked a lot. Now we're on 30 seconds things. I'm just going to read my bullet points instead of everything. So desalinization, space mining, crop rotation, conservative censorship, I'm fragile, externalities, redesigning cities as based, different strokes for different folks, car tax yellow vest, lab meat, global population control is not eugenics, it's Xbox and condoms.
Thank you.
Okay.
Was that a poem?
Yeah.
It's a haiku. It's a very messed up haiku. Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up now, and everybody's gonna do ending statements and shout outs. We're gonna start in the bottom left-hand corner with Supreme.
Oh, are these like closing end of the panel statements?
Closing end of the panel, and you also like shout yourself out.
Yeah, sure. I'm Supreme. Now you guys know who I am. Okay, that's it.
Now we're gonna throw it over to Turk.
Yeah, so I love how we were supposed to be talking about like the ocean being on fire, and then it like devolved into Demon Mama interrupting people and a bunch of petty shit that no one wants to really deal with. We could have talked about real things here, but unfortunately, no. I'm Turk. I don't do politics too often, but I do science and tech. If you like computers and stuff, youtube.com/theturk.
We're gonna throw it over to Xander Hall.
Yeah, my name is Xander Hall. I appreciate you having me on today, especially going out of your way to have it on Discord so I could be here. I had a fun time. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitch. You can find me on my website. I do lefty content. And for God's sakes, I just want there to still be coral reefs by the time I'm 30 when it comes to the whole climate change topic we're discussing. I just want there to be coral reefs in like 8 years, okay? But yeah, that's all I have to say.
We're going to throw it over to Sprouticus.
The Sprouticus on Twitch and Twitter. If you like my points, come give me a follow. I enjoyed this conversation for the most part, besides the rules for thee, but not for me part by a couple people on this panel. And then going on mute and saying I have no respect for any of these people. That was absolutely amazing. And I look forward to the next panel.
We're going to throw it over to Hans.
All right, everybody. I'm sorry for the insane amount of energy that I had during the last bit. I wanted to jump in. I wasn't able to. Most of what Connor said was okay. I'm not sure about sharing all the condoms because I need lots of them. But like in general, we need to improve our infrastructure. We need to help everybody. We need to change so that our production, our consumption do not destroy the planet. And if you like these and other extremely wholesome and spicy memes, you can find me at Hans of Harkir on Twitch, on Twitter. I do fun Pokemon streams and Magic the Gathering because despite my massive appearance, I am the weebiest of the weeb and the nerdiest of the nerd. Thank you so much for having me, Dylan. It's been an absolute fucking blast. And I am so excited. And just for the record, I still never said Sprout was a racist, which means I've done nothing but win over and over and over. Nothing but good points. No one can stop me. And now you all know it. Woo! Sorry.
I like his energy. Okay. I like your energy.
Okay. Now we're going to send it over. Okay. Now we're going to send it over to Nacho.
Okay. First of all, I'm really glad to finally break the Xander Hall curse. Xander Hall's supposed to have been on a panel like 3 times that I've been on before, and this never works out. So it was nice to finally meet you, Xander Hall. Just to end on that last point, China has 17 nuclear reactors in progress in their latest industry report that was released April 15th of this current year. The U.S. has 6 approved reactors and 3 proposed as of March 9th. 2020. So yeah, again, we need to stop being afraid of nuclear energy and realize its potential. Other than that, you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, all the socials, YouTube, everything else. And I'm just gonna shout out Hans's panel tomorrow. I'll be on that tomorrow. And Hans, you're awesome. And Dylan,
hell
you're
yeah,
awesome as well.
brother! I just want to say, if we've argued
thanks
tonight,
for having us.
It won't affect my ability to moderate you. I am very excited, so thank you so much.
It's all good. I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Dylan.
We're going to throw it over now to Demon Mama.
Why, yes. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think that it's pretty simple. If you're willing to consider things like jokingly or not jokingly invading the UN or imposing, population control across the globe of humans, I think that you should be willing to consider taking a bus or at least consider other solutions that might be somewhat in that ballpark. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. A lot of people got really mad because I had a whole bunch of points that I waited and lined up for, but I guess that's neither here nor there. Making conservatives angry is something I do all the time with my presence. So yeah, it was really interesting. My name is Demon Mama. If you enjoyed what you saw, come on by demonmama.com/live. We always take questions afterwards, and I've had a wonderful time being here discussing these high level ideas, and I sure hope that everybody will consider riding the bus someday, because otherwise we might not have a planet, which would suck.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to Connor.
All right. So to address Supreme specifically, I'm sorry that you're Doomer. I have a child, so I can't afford to be Doomer. We got to figure this out. So whether that's mixed economy capitalism, state intervention, technological intervention, whatever we need to do it. And we gotta ride this shit out to the bitter fucking end, bud. Because I hate to admit this, but we're all mortal. So even if we had a perfect planet, we would all die in like 50 years. So why not figure out some cool shit while we're on our way out? So just to address the population control meme while we're at it, one of the fastest ways that you can see globally that we reduce birth rates is by raising standards of living and providing people with birth control. So I'm not talking about pointing a gun at anybody. I'm basically just literally talking about bringing them to a Western standard of living in a way that doesn't destroy the planet, and then handing them condoms. That way they want to be fucking, oh my God, apartment dwelling coomer dickheads like Hans over here. So there are solutions. We can find them. I do love Hans, but he is an apartment dwelling coomer. And then I just wanted to pass. Yeah, I just wanted to pass this on. So Firefly and Serenity are some of the most like wholesome sci-fi TV shows ever made. They're the same TV show, and it's basically like the way world history works out in this universe is China and the United States actually marry as bipolar powers in the world. And I think that's ultimately what needs to happen. We can treat them like adversaries in the short term because they're doing some really fucky shit. But ultimately, we do need to think about how do we survive the next century. So even if we can criticize cultural genocide and other fucky things that they're doing, then we still need to figure out how to live together and hopefully not nuke the shit out of each other. So for the outro, my name is Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. I am a politics nerd. I'm a science fiction nerd. I am a military veteran, and I am a law enforcement veteran. So I talk about all of those things in reaction to popular media or debates or Twitch panels or whatever. I do a whole bunch of random shit. Right now I'm breaking down the Bo Burnham Inside special, which is very popular. So if you want to check out any of that stuff, go into YouTube, type in Counterpoints, common spelling. I should be the second most popular channel with a similar name. I also participate on the Mask Off podcast, which is with Tiberius D and Samantha Banana. So if you check out Tiberius D on Twitch on Sundays, we do like a 2-hour show from 9 to 11. So if any of that interests you, please come check us out. It was a blast as always, Dylan. And just for the conservative censorship, I think we proved tonight that conservatives cannot behave themselves and are therefore biased. Like liberals who control the media are biased against us and shut us down and silence us. And I think that was proven statistically tonight with all the conservatives getting fucking nuked. Thank you.
So I just want to say a few things. Number one, Inside, that Bo Burnham wasn't that good. Okay, you're all overplaying it because you agree with it politically.
Get the fuck out of
here. It wasn't good. I couldn't even finish it. Okay, I couldn't even finish the special. It was not that good. That's
okay,
the first
it wasn't that good.
Okay,
but like,
no.
The internet was a banger. Just that one song.
Okay, cool. He made one good. Okay, if I write a good song, that doesn't make a good special. Okay,
I'm not saying it did.
If I make a good sandwich and cover it in feces, it doesn't make it a good sandwich. Okay,
it's an existential masterpiece. Go fuck yourself.
Okay, it was a unique, like artsy type piece. But the reason you like it is because you agree with it politically. Now, that's the first thing I want to say.
No, I like it because I'm emo. That's why I like it.
Cool. Yeah, it's very okay, sir. Okay,
sad.
You're edgy. You want to live in the the Warhammer universe. I understand it, okay? Now, look, that's the first thing I want to say. Second thing I want to say, I saw Vosh in chat earlier. Vosh, you couldn't abide by Hippy Dippy Championship rules. You couldn't respect the business which built you and gave you the luxurious life you live today, you champagne socialist. So now, next week, next Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we're going to be having a Hippy Dippy Rumble. And it's going to be great. It's going to be a hell of a show. And I hope everybody tunes in to see a new person crowd. Somebody with more respect for the business, hopefully, than Vosh. Maybe someone like Jimmy Dore. Someone respectable. Maybe some Gray Zone people. Maybe Charlie Kirk type. Maybe Lecture Fan. I think it's damn fucking near time that Lecture Fan man gets a W in this business as somebody who's been carrying the conservative flag for so long. Anyway, I will see you guys next Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And for those who care, I'll be playing D&D tomorrow. I might stream it, I might not stream it. If I don't stream it, I'll blast somebody else's link. See you guys later. Gonna raid you all. Thank you all for tuning in to Hippy Dippy. Love you all. See you next Friday. Love you then.
Based in poggers. That was so much fun.
Based.
Dude, I gotta get in that D&D sesh.
Bye, everybody.
Amazing. Well, that was fun. We had a good time. Wasn't that just a fun little thing we had there, huh? Do we feel good? God, I'm tired after that. I like panel shows, I guess. Like that was pretty fun. My only problem with that, or the only thing that was very Zan, the lag. Is there lag now? Is it good? Are we good? Are we good? Hello? Hello? Are we good? Is the lag done? Okay, good. Let's just make sure. I think it was probably just me closing everything. That was pretty good. It was a little boring. I guess the topics were nothing all that exciting. But yeah, I don't know. Also, I never agreed to that like Rumble thing that's happening next week. I don't recall agreeing to do that, but I guess if I'm invited, then I guess I'll do it then. Might have to. What am I debating Vosh and Destiny on? Are me and Vosh gonna debate Destiny on socialism? Are we? I have no idea what's gonna come of that, but no, I didn't, Lonnie. I don't know. Maybe it was misspeaking, but I'm going into it. I guess it's a huge like 20v20 debate. Oh my god. Well, fuck. I guess I'll do it. I don't know. Are we debate? Is it going to be me, Vosh, Destiny, Demon Mama? God, wait. No. Oh my God. It's going to be such a shit show if Destiny and Demon Mama are both there. Because you know that every time Demon Mama talks or anything, Destiny is going to be like, sorry, did you hear someone talking? Is there someone talking right now? Oh no. All right. Well, I'll make sure Lonnie makes me a big bowl of popcorn for that. We'll buy a few bags of popcorn. I'll get like a big comically sized bowl and I'll just be eating popcorn the whole time and I'll talk when there's something there. I'm not going to win that shit, but you know, it'll be a fun time to be part of, I suppose. So yeah, we'll see. Anyway, it was fun. I had a good time. Yeah, I guess that's all. If you enjoyed this debate panel, please like the video, like my stream. If you're new here and you want to see more from me, please subscribe. And if you've already done that, ring that fucking bell icon next to the subscribe button. Turn on all notifications so YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a new video. You can also follow my social media through links in the description, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as joining my fan Discord, a community of all of my lovely fans here that you can talk to me, you can talk to other people. We do watch parties in there. The final episode of the Loki show on Disney Plus comes out on Wednesday, so please join the fan Discord. We can watch together. I live stream it from my Discord, and you guys can watch it and we can talk. It'll be a fun time. So join that. We do watch parties all the time. We're gonna be watching Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad pretty soon as well. You can also support me financially if you've got the money for it and you don't need it for anything else. Either at my website, xanderhall.com/live. You can donate, subscribe, or gift a sub. Same goes for YouTube. You can super chat to donate or hit the join button to become a channel member, which is a lot like subbing on my website. Same goes for Twitch. You can subscribe, prime sub, and gift subs. All donations and contributions are greatly appreciated. In fact, we're about to be moving straight on to Media Share, where your donations will put me in a position where I am forced to react to your videos. So please send them on over. Thank you so much for watching and have a good one.